Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the it's not the after hour show. It's still Dave Scott's show tonight. I am covering for Dave Scott tonight, so please enjoy the show because I'm going to have a great time. And we have a special guest tonight. So I am actually going to bring on our special guest in just a moment. Let me first do the introduction for all of you. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button and abduct the subscribe button to the Spaced Out Radio channel. And of course, I'm your host tonight covering for Dave Scott, Marquise, aka Dr. Door. If you would like to check out our archives, they are free. You know this at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. If you'd like to show some support, you can always check out the website and buy some merch, everybody, because you always want to represent the people that you love the most on the internet. And if you would like to follow us on our socials are Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and of course the Facebook group that is always lit at Spaced Out Radio on Facebook. Now let me go ahead and bring in our guest, Carmen Turner. Carmen, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. It is a pleasure to have a chance to have a conversation with you. I've seen your your info, and I was like, oh my gosh, I get it. I get to talk to this person. So I'm really interested in your specialty. I'm really interested in your specialty. So if you could please tell the audience, in case they don't know who you are, what you do, what your specialization is, so we can get started.
Sure. Well, my name's Carmen Turner-Schott, and I'm an author and a psychological astrologer. And I've been doing astrology since I was 19. And just a lot of research and collecting stories from people all over the world and doing astrological consultations, as my side job. In my normal job, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So I use astrology as a tool for self-awareness and to help people understand themselves and others. And it's my passion. I love to write about it. So I have several books out there. My newest book is Phoenixes and Angels, Mastering the 8th and 12th Astrological Houses. So I'll tell you what that means, as we're talking, what it means to be a phoenix or an angel. But I have basic books out there as well on the sun signs, moon signs, and just for people to learn more about their personality, why they are the way they are. And I believe astrology is a powerful tool that can really validate your experience. So I've always used it. It's my passion, and I love to talk about it.
Well, I've got so many questions.
Sure.
Because when I looked at your bio and I checked out some of the info about your books, I went to your website. I was like, oh, I've got some questions. Yes. So actually, let me pull up your website here so that I can talk about some of the things that I want to, ask you some of the questions that I want to know. And then, of course, at some point, we'll see if we can get some questions from the guests as well. The chat, because I know they're going to want to talk and ask some questions to you about your books and about your work too. Yes. So let's go ahead and do that here. I got it from Filth. Filth was the one who hit me up and he gave me your contact information. So thank you for that, Dirty Filth. The artist who's usually here for Dave Scott, and he kind of draws in the background. It's really cool stuff, by the way. Nice. He does. Buy his merch, everybody. So let me pull up that here. Hold on 1 second. It is Filth. Dirty filth. Okay. So let's talk about your book.
Yes.
Now, can you tell me why you picked the title? First of all, let's start with that. Why'd you pick
Sure.
that title?
So for the past 30 years, I've been researching what's called the 12th and 8th astrological houses. So in a birth chart, those that know astrology, those that don't, we break the sky into 12 sections when you're born, and we call those sections areas of life. We call them houses. And so let me explain it real basic. So if you're standing on earth looking up at the sky at the date, year, exact time and place of your birth, all of the planets are in a certain star constellation which we call the signs. And there's 12 signs in astrology, right, in our solar system. And
Right.
so they're in a certain star constellation, and they're in a certain area of the sky, which we break into 12 sections like a pie. And it's like we take a picture of the sky when the moment, place, date of your birth, because everybody's chart is different. It's the map of your soul. We take a picture and we put it on a piece of paper. And on that piece of paper, it's all symbols, and it's a wheel with 12 sections, which are the houses.
Yeah.
And the two most spiritual houses in astrology are the 12th house and the 8th house. And the reason is that the 8th house is ruled by Scorpio. Scorpio is the planet of death, resurrection, rebirth, healing, transformation. A lot of very deep taboo subjects rule the 8th house, right? And 8th
Mhm.
house people, I call them phoenixes because they go through so many changes in their lives, and they go through some trauma, some really intense experiences. They're good in a crisis. They're good at doing, therapy. They're natural psychologists. And they often just go through these changes. And anyone with Scorpio energy, so anybody that's on here that's a Scorpio sun sign, a Scorpio moon, a Scorpio rising, or has the sun, moon, or three or more planets in the 8th house, is what I
Mhm.
call a phoenix, because they're reborn from the ashes stronger and more resilient. They're going through very strong, intense spiritual experiences, right?
Okay.
And then the 12th house, I call 12th house people angels. And the 12th house is ruled by the sign Pisces. Pisces is the mystical, spiritual, artistic, creative, imaginative sign. And that energy of Neptune, right? And Pisces energy is associated with the 12th house. The 12th house is all about cosmic consciousness, finding your oneness with God and the creator, helping
Mhm.
others, escaping from the world, meditation, dreams, sleep, mysticism, right? All of these really spiritual things. And it's really where our soul comes to serve others and to find our soul mission. And so people that have 12th house planets always tell me they don't feel like they're from Earth. They always tell me, probably 99% of them tell me, I feel like I'm an alien, or I
Yeah.
was adopted, like I don't belong here in this earth realm, right? They feel like they're just not from here. And so I call them fallen angels in one of my other books. And then
I saw
uh
that. Yeah, I was curious about that because
yeah,
there's a totally different, connotation there.
yeah,
What
and
do you
it's
mean
not
by
bad.
fallen angel? Yeah, that's what I was gonna get to.
Yeah,
I figured it probably wasn't. You wouldn't call people fallen angels.
yeah, yeah. Fallen angels, it's not biblical at all. It's not, when you
Okay.
think of fallen angels, think, oh my gosh, they got
Yeah.
kicked out of heaven. No, no. Fallen angels means, they chose to come here, and they kind of came down back to earth to help people. So they kind of have this awareness that they're a soul, and they
Mhm.
know that they're not from here, which, most human beings, we're stuck in this material world, this physical world, and we don't think about stuff like that. But people with 12th and 8th house planets, or Pisces and Scorpio energy, I find that they are naturally drawn to these kind of things. Mysticism, UFOs, time travel, dreams, crystals, all of these
Yeah.
different spiritual topics, Reiki, different healing things. And they're interested in learning all this stuff, right? And it's because of having usually that energy. It's all energy. Astrology
Yeah.
is just
Of
energy.
course. Yeah.
And so I call them fallen angels because it's kind of like, what it reminds me of when I wrote both of these books. I was thinking of this, that movie with Nicolas Cage called City of Angels.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. Yeah.
how,
That was a great movie, by the way.
yeah. So you
Great
know
movie.
how his life went down when he decided to become
Yep.
human, right?
That's so interesting. Yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
That's kind of the symbolism that I had with, oh my gosh, this is 12th house energy. It's like, you're not from here, but he did it for love. Okay. That's what 12th house Pisces people, they're rarely into finding a soulmate and a love and mystical, deep connections. And so he left, his
Yeah.
angel job to become a human, and then he lost her, and then everything hit rock bottom, right? And he had pain, and so, that to me is what a 12th houser is. They kind of fell down here, but they chose to come, and they're not a victim. And I tell them, that they picked to come here, but they are very wise souls. And the energy of the 8th and 12th is very similar. There's similar spiritual abilities that people that have planets in these two houses have. They're born with psychic abilities and spiritual gifts. And once they realize what that is, they can use it to help other people. But it can
Okay.
be lonely, it can be challenging when they're young and as they're trying to figure out themselves, because it's not easy to have planets in the 8th or 12th houses. There are challenges, but most of them become wounded healers. So they help other people, and they're just really special in my eyes. So these are my two favorite houses in astrology. And I've
Mhm.
just spent my life researching them. I started seeing these patterns in all of the clients that I counseled through the years in my normal job, and then also in my astrology business. I've been doing astrology consultations since I was 19, and I
Wow.
started doing it for fun in graduate school and practicing, and at a little bookstore in St. Louis called Mystic Valley. I was an astrology consultant there, and I always had a normal job, in the counseling world. But I always had this passion and hobby, and it's just become a part of my life. And I love to write about it, and I love to teach it and teach other people. And I want to make astrology understandable on a basic level. So when I talk about it, when I write about it, I want it to be where anyone can pick up my books and kind of understand what the heck it's about. Because astrology is a lot of math, a lot of symbols, and
Right.
people get shy away, like, oh my gosh. So my books are very basic, and these books, this Phoenix is an Angels book, is special to me because back when Facebook first started, I started the first astrology groups on Facebook. If you go to community on my website,
Sure.
it'll pull up the 8th Astrological House, Deep Soul Divers, and that's one of my groups. And then the 12th Astrological House is another one that I created back in like 2010, 2011. And we got 15,000 members. We got people from all over the world, and they come in there to share. And I really wanted it to be like a support group for people to share their experiences, that these unexplained experiences, and that no one would believe, right? And that's what got me into astrology, was having these experiences when I was young that no one could explain to me. And when I first realized I had 12th and 8th house planets myself, I'm like, this is why I'm different. This is why I'm weird, right? And I dream things, and I have intuition, and I'm empathic. And it validated my personality. And that's why I know it is so important to help other people understand you're not alone. And so now it's just like clockwork that I'll ask people in my 12th house group, for instance, I'll ask 30 random people to send me their birth chart. And I'll look at 5 patterns that I've seen in all of my years, 30 years of doing this. And all of those patterns, I'd say out of 30 charts, 29 out of 30 have all 5 patterns. And so this is research I'm doing, like for astrological magazines and stuff, like not just the psychological and energy part of it, but trying to show it as a science, and that there's a research part of this, and that's what astrologers have been trying to do for a long time, is to prove that this is scientific and that there's something more to this. It's hard to prove it. We know it works. We know it's validating, because I just was on a show the other night, and I pulled up the chart of the person and I never met them, started telling, they're like, you just said everything about my life. Like, how did you know that? Because it's the map of your soul. I'm just interpreting it. It's something that was created by the universe, whatever you want to call the higher power, but it's part of our world. And I think it's funny because I saw a video on YouTube recently. It's like, You believe in astrology whether you believe in it or not. And it starts showing different things in nature, like the full moon. The full moon affects everybody, animals, us, because our body's mostly water, and the full moon represents affects the tides of the ocean. So it affects our emotional nature, right? And our inner nature. But that's kind of my passion is collecting stories and helping people with 12th and 8th house planets, or a lot of Scorpio, a lot of Pisces energy will make you an angel or a phoenix as well. People ask me. And if you have a strong Pluto or strong Neptune in your chart, that'll also give you the traits and energies of this as well. So there's a lot to it. I don't want to confuse people. I try to keep it real basic, but if you want to know if you have planets in these houses, you can go to my website, and I have a little free birth report that I can send you. But I'm behind. I had about 200 requests recently this week, so it might take me a while, but I will email you and I will let you know. I'll give you a little wheel. And if you want to know if you have planets there, you can also contact me through the site, through the contact page as well. And I can explain everything. Oh, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, my
There you
mic
are.
was muted.
There you are.
I appreciate the summation of everything that you just said about what you're doing, because it gives us an idea of what you're doing, how you're doing it as well, and then the different movements you're creating to try to involve the people that you're working with in this whole this science, so to speak. So my question is this, and I've got a lot. So let's just start with the small ones, because I don't
Okay.
want to do this too big. I'm really curious about how you've come to these this thinking. Why did you even decide? I know you said you started this when you were younger, you got involved with it. Did you have any experiences with anything supernatural? Did you have any guidance from any of the angels you're speaking about potentially, or anything that may be supernatural in nature that
Yes,
guided you to this?
definitely. That's what got me in this. So let me just say it started when I was young. Um, I would have very vivid dreams, and I would sleepwalk.
Oh,
And
okay.
my mother, my parents told me I used to do it. I don't really remember it. But I remember always dreaming things, and I remember feeling like I wasn't alone in my room at night. So I always had to have a light on. And I remember being little, but when it really started coming out, I was in high school and I was 16, and two things happened to me in the same year. That year I lost a good friend of mine died from an accidental shooting.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry.
And that's really my 8th house there. Okay, my 8th house, death, rebirth, losing someone close to you at a young age. That's one of the patterns that happens for Scorpios as well. People with 8th house planets, they often lose a loved one, or death is something they think about. It's something that they're interested in. They wonder, where will I go? I'm a soul. There's kind of a natural attraction to all the taboo things in life when you have 8th house planets. It's just like a Scorpio, right? They're drawn to the taboo things, and they're intense and emotional, and they're into mysticism, right? So it's the same energy because Scorpio rules it. But I woke up one night, and after she had passed away that year, and maybe 6 months later, I don't know. I was a senior in high school. I woke up one night, and there was a glowing ball of light in my doorway.
Wow.
And it was about this big, like bigger than a softball, and it was yellow, white, watery, translucent. It's the only way I know to describe it. And it was floating in my doorway. Well, of course, I always had to have my door open and the night light on in the bathroom where I could see out. And my parents' room was like right there across on the right because our house was small. And when I tried to yell for my mother, which I often would wake them up in the night from dreams, I would dream things that would happen. But this time, they would never believe me. They'd think, oh, it's your imagination. Go, back to sleep. But I tried to yell, but I had no voice and I couldn't move. I was frozen. And all I had control of was my mind. And I kept saying, please don't have it come in my room. That's what I kept saying. Because at that time I was afraid of the unknown. Now I go over to it, but I hit myself. I hit myself now. Like, why was I scared? Right? It's probably a spirit guide or angel, or shoot, it could have been my friend. Who knows? So I was terrified, and I laid there for hours watching this thing, but it never came inside my room. And when I finally, it's like it released me, is the only way to describe it. And I was able to finally have my voice back, and I yelled for my mother. And I said, "Look in my doorway. Do you see it?" And she said, "Yes." So my mother, who was a total skeptic, saw this thing too. And she said, "Maybe someone's shining a flashlight in, trying to, maybe it's a lightning bug." I'm like, "It's huge. No, it has form," and it would go down the hall and come right back in my doorway. And she just kind of went back to sleep and kind of like didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And my dad was out of town with my brother over that weekend, so it was just the two of us. And so the next morning, she's like, I think I passed out finally from just exhaustion. She said that was not a lightning, but I do not know what that was. And I started researching angels and UFOs and spirit guides and the pyramids of Egypt, and then that's
Yeah.
when I got my first astrology book when I was 16, and I taught myself. And that experience was just one of many. I have many, many stories that are pretty intense stories. I could share. It depends what you want to know. I've had a lot of different
Well,
things.
that was I mean, that's an introduction to where you were
Hmm.
kind of where the supernatural started
Hmm.
for you. Do you think it's connected to UFOs?
Well, that's a good question. I can you hear me all right? I got my
Yep, I
headphones.
can hear. Yeah, I can hear you
Um,
perfectly.
I'm not used to wearing it, but
That's okay.
I went to, let me say this. 2 years after this, in 1995, my friend and I were driving in Missouri, and we saw, it's like the sky opened up yellow, and there was a saucer shaped light hanging across the entire skyline off of the I-44 in Missouri. Okay, I'm from Missouri. And I pulled off the road. I got out of the car with her. We watched this thing. It's like it didn't have lights. It wasn't blinking. It was like the sky opened up, this yellow
Wow.
saucer across the sky. Other cars pulled off. I watched it, and before our eyes, within a matter of seconds, it's like it shrunk and it was gone. So after I saw that, again, I was already open minded because of what happened to me, right? So I started really looking at this, and I went to a course at the Edgar Casey Foundation out at Virginia Beach at the A.R.E. called UFOs, Orbs, and something. And I kind of got freaked out, I'll be honest, when I went. I went in person to this course because I used to live in Virginia. And I met all these authors, people that have been researching orbs, which is what they claim I saw in my doorway. And they said that after people have an experience with an orb, they typically have heightened psychic abilities, and they have more intuition and all these things. And I got to say that is what happened to me. Now, have I ever seen anything else like that since? No.
Hmm.
I don't really know what it was, and I can't explain it, but I will tell you, I've researched all this stuff, right? I mean, O negative blood, RH
Right.
factor. I'm O negative. I am,
Okay.
and my
Okay.
mother's O negative, and I have this whole theory about it because it's interesting, with the abilities they have and the intuition and the extra vertebrae. I mean, my mother even has that, and she's O negative. So there's a lot to it I've researched, but do I believe that that God could have created other civilizations out there in space? Yes.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think, yeah.
So you believe in a God? A
I
God.
do believe in, yes, and yes.
Okay. I only these are big questions. Like people
Yeah.
today, it's kind of like debate of whether or not. I mean, most people now believe that there is a life after death. That's actually one of the
Hmm.
biggest things that's changing in our climate today.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now people are wondering, and this is a conversation that I'm hearing
Hmm.
in the space now, is well, there's got to be some kind of a consciousness, some kind of
Consciousness, yeah.
something that's like behind all of this, because it looks like it's just such a
Yeah.
massive, when you look at everything, you're like,
Yeah.
wow. And I obviously believe there's a God. People, the chat knows me pretty well, but
Sure.
more and more people are believing life after death in a God. What do you think
Yes.
the grand scheme of things is? What do you think like the purpose of
Well,
any of this stuff is?
I've studied, I my own experience, and what I've studied. It's like apparently we choose to come here,
Okay,
and we
okay,
we all exist as energy. I mean, called a soul, called energy, called life force, whatever you want to call it. And I believe, like Edgar Casey, I study a lot of his stuff. He believed that we've even lived on other planets before we came to Earth. So there's different planetary energies that our souls live in, and I guess you could call it a different realm, like like the astral realm. Like people, we're in the earth, but it's like a veil between the astral. So there's a belief that when we go to sleep at night, we leave our body every night when we go to sleep, and then and we're really traveling, and some people are dream walkers, where they wake up in their dream and lucid dream. I do that.
Yeah.
I wake up and know I'm dreaming mentally, and then I freak out because I realize I'm awake, but I'm not awake. And I can't hold it very long. This is something that happens to me too. But I do believe that it's a school. And, I study a little bit of Dolores Cannon and her books and her hypnosis technique. I'm trained in that.
Awesome.
And it's really cool because I had it done on myself. And I do believe in past lives. I believe we've lived many lifetimes. That we're not. This isn't the first time we're here.
Okay.
And I believe that because of my own experience, though. I can't make anyone else believe what I know in my heart to be true.
Well, just so you know, the chat,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like most of the chat is, especially here, this audience is very open-minded.
Good,
I mean,
good.
some of the most open-minded people I've come across in my life, which is why I'm here, why I'm so welcome here.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in a great place now because this is the kind of conversation we love to hear. So we've established that you believe that there's a God, there's an afterlife, there's a pre-life, there's many lives that people live, that we choose to be here. That this is like an educational process.
Yes.
These are ideas that I've come across when I came to Spaced Out Radio. And I mean, you kind of hear about them, but when you meet people who are involved with the science behind it, writing books like yourself, authors, you hear a lot more about that. Can you tell us an example, a story about what made you believe that there are many lives, that we live many lives, and that this is a teaching experience?
Well, I'll tell a story of something that happened to me. So the reason I believe in it is because I was so different and had these experiences I couldn't explain, and I would dream about something and then it would happen, or I dreamed my grandmother passed away, and I knew something was going to happen the next day. She passed away, and it's like she came to me in the dream. So all these things led me up to, at one point, I almost became a nun. Okay, this is really cool, and this is part of my 12th house research. Phoenixes and Angels, guys, my book. Please, go out and get it. It's on Kindle.
I'll pull that up again. Hold on one second. Let me pull that up.
Phoenixes and Angels. I really am excited about this book because I wanted to put both houses into one book. I got 2 books out there just on the 8th and 12th, single books, but I wanted to expand it, go into more detail, and share some more of my personal stories. So my dreams are in this book. I share some experiences I've had in this book, my own. And but let me tell you what happened. So I'm not Catholic, okay? And I was very drawn to the Catholic faith. And it was like I always was obsessed with angels and icons and like Catholic stuff. And I didn't know what the saints were. I didn't know any of this stuff, right? I wasn't raised like that way. I was raised in the Midwest. I didn't really, my parents never really took us to church, but I go with my friends, to Lutheran church, Baptist, whatever. Yeah. But, and I always, I wasn't like raised really strict or religious or anything like that. My parents are pretty open-minded and let me, they didn't really go to church. So, what happened was I got in college. I went to a little Catholic college in St. Louis called Fontbonne. And I went there to play basketball, actually. I was a basketball player. And I got there and I started, going to the mass. And I was really, like, it felt like I'd done it before. I can't explain it. It's like, it just felt like I knew this, right?
I've had this experience before, which is when you're saying, I apologize, but
no,
I'm actually quite bothered by these experiences where I'm like, I feel like I've lived my entire life in this moment.
Yes.
And it scares me because I've been through some things and I don't want to do it again.
I know, right? It's like deja vu. It's like like the deja vu feeling, wait a minute. I've had that feeling. And then it got to the point where I was even having orders of nuns sent to me in the mail. Like, and this is when it got creepy. Okay. So I had these nuns, different orders of nuns, and the Carmelites specifically sent me this brochure. And on the front page of it, this was back in 1990. What time? I graduated in 93. It was like 1994, 95. And I think it was 95. It was the same year I saw the thing in the sky. Okay. And I saw this lady's face on this, and it was black and white, and she was a nun. And I looked at her, and I'm like, I know her. I knew the face of this person. And if people didn't know this about me, but I'm very visual. I don't forget faces. I am very, I will know if I see you in the mall that I saw you somewhere else in St. Louis, or I'll go up to people in different, are you from my hometown? Yeah. I remember faces, and I don't know names well, but I know faces. So I knew this face, and it gave me chills. I got really emotional. And then all these things started happening to me at this time. And this is a story. I'm gonna go ahead and tell the story. It'll sound crazy, but I got some energy work done. I was studying the School of Metaphysics at the time, learning about energy, learning about the chakras, learning about, how to meditate, all these things. And we had different lessons in a little group. We'd meet like twice a week. I did that for like 3 years. So what happened was, I went to have some energy work done by the teacher, and I remembered this whole life played out. And I was telling him what I saw. And what I saw was I was hiding in a cave with nuns. And I was young, like maybe 13. And there were soldiers outside this cave or whatever. And I could see their uniforms in my mind even now. And they started murdering the nuns.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they told me to run, and I ran. I ran, and I cried and ran, and then I kind of came out of this. Well, at the time, my back was hurting real bad. That's why I went. It's like I had some nerve thing going on with my back, and I cried. I kind of released whatever I told him what it was. Well, the next thing that happened, I went back to college, back to the dorm, and the next day in the little hall, they were doing the history of the college of the Sisters of St. Joseph. They came from France to found the college, right? And they had the lady, and the nun was in the full habit, pretending to be telling the story, and they were murdered.
Oh man.
And I felt like, oh my God, no one would believe me. I'm like, I that's when I started believing in past lives. And that was just one experience. I feel like there's people in my life that I've had these connections with, and I can't explain it. And it's like, oh, it's like natural. And it happened just, the past couple of years. Somebody, that I know, I felt like they're my brother. And the first thing I said to him is, you remind me of my brother. And then as I started remembering and feeling like it's like they are my brother. And then they would say things to me. This is what's creepy. And they don't know it. They don't believe in any of this stuff.
Right. No.
They know that I'm a little different, right? But in my normal job, I'm normal, right? In my normal job. But I said, first time I met him, I said it. And then he would say things to me like, tell your daughter, Uncle so-and-so says, I'm proud of her, and I'm like, just these comments. And I'm like, did you ever notice? And he's like, do you believe that we had a past life? I said, yeah, we were brothers. I said, look at all the things you said to me. And I started repeating it. He's like, oh, that's weird. So he actually kind of believes now, because him and I are real close, and it's like brothers, like a little brother. I feel like I'm his older brother. Right. Yeah. And so I've had many of these kind of feelings with people throughout my life. And when I met my husband, before, when we were dating, I had a reading done, and they did a past life crossing is what they call it. And they can tell you, what lives you've had together. And they kind of shared some things, and the things that would come up have been a part of my marriage all these years, like different patterns. And it's like, you're trying to heal these patterns. So everyone we know now, we've known before in some way. I do believe this. And I believe it because I've also had hypnosis done. The QHHT technique, and I have a recording, and I had several memories come up that I'm on tape talking about that were not from this life. And so I'm still searching to find out more about that. But I will say, in astrology, I do focus on the past lives and the soul mission this lifetime, which is called the North and South Node in your birth chart. So the South Node in your birth chart shows me as an astrologer what traits you've mastered, and what kind of past lives you've had, and what you went through. And it shows what you're meant to kind of let go of and move towards the opposite sign. So you're learning to be, You know, if you're a South Node Capricorn, your North Node's in Cancer, you've already mastered being a Capricorn. This lifetime, you came here to master being a Cancer. And so I've been really into the nodes of the moon, and I actually have a book coming out next year with another astrologer, and it's all about the North and South Node, our past lives and our soul mission, the whole book. And so I'm really into the past life thing right now and healing. A lot of the things, health issues, things, relationship issues, things we have right now in our life are from the past. And if you heal them in a deep way in your higher self, your consciousness, your levels of mind, if you heal them, you can heal illness. I do believe that.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, the mind-body connection. Yeah.
So real quick, we are going to go to our first break. I just realized Dave Scott does 30-minute breaks. I do 1 hour breaks. So we're going to take a 5-minute break now, and then we'll be right back with more. I have a question for you about spiritual practices in our everyday life. All right, guys, everybody stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. I caught you all in the chat. So we will be right back. We're going to be doing Dave's first break of the night. So hang tight, everybody. 1 second. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. After the first half-hour break, I'm your host, Marquise, aka Dr. Dora, accompanied by Cameron Turner. Why do I keep saying Cameron? Carmen Turner. Carmen, I'm so sorry.
Carmen, it's all
Carmen
right.
Turner-Schott. I gotta say, you've made me. I've been thinking about this since you started talking about this idea of past lives. Because again, I have my own perspective about past lives. I think there is something very real about that phenomena. The experience of recalling a life that you haven't lived, or at least you don't think you have anyway. By the way, chat, I love y'all too. Just so you know, chat's being so nice tonight. Thank you,
Oh.
chat. I love you guys. Try to keep the conversation focused here. I see there's some chatter going on about all kinds of things over there. So let's RG and just being a comedian as he always is. But I wanted to ask you something because I've also been reading Diana Pasulka, right?
Okay.
She's been doing research. She wrote a book called American Cosmic, which has been she's written
Okay.
many books, but the one that she's written lately, the latest one is called American Cosmic, and it
Okay.
essentially ties in the UFO phenomena with spiritual experiences in life after death and religions and stuff like that. She is fantastic,
Yeah.
and your teachings, although not exactly the same, are reminiscent of some of the things that she talks about. It just goes in a different direction, and so I wanted to
Sure.
know. She mentions about spiritual, like the necessity, even if you're just looking to achieve some kind of success or overall happiness, then to have a spiritual practice. What is your take on the idea of just everybody having some kind of spiritual practice and how you would apply your teachings, for example, and if there's anything in your book that talks about that to the idea of daily practice?
Yes, I think the biggest thing, that I believe that we need to do is be able to feel our emotions and to truly experience our emotions, and also to allow ourselves to heal. Because I
Okay.
think I think a lot of when you think of trauma, a lot of people, all of us have some type of trauma in our life. No one had a perfect life, right? And
Right.
so that's kind of what I talk a lot about in Phoenixes and Angels, and a lot of my work is about how astrology can help us heal and help us transform, which is adapt to change, and become more resilient through our experiences. And so I believe astrology is a tool that can show you your strengths and help you know more about yourself. But as far as a practical thing, I'm all about, I believe meditation is not going to work for everyone.
Right.
Especially the fire signs, the air signs that like to be moving and doing things. It might be hard for them to sit and do really deep meditation and things
Right.
like that. But I do believe dream dream work, writing your dreams down, that's an excellent way. I think that should be a daily practice that we all do. Whether you dream or not, when you do dream, write them down and analyze them. I'm a very vivid, very active dream researcher too. I love dreams. I believe that they give us messages, they help us. And someone had said in the chat, do dreams have to do with past lives?
You
Yes.
saw that. I just saved
Yeah.
that question, so you can answer that by all means. I was going to save it for
Sure.
later, but if you want to answer that, please.
Yes, sometimes I've helped people that have had like recurring dreams, where even children, like nightmares,
Right.
and I kind of try to help them connect, with that. And it's kind of like, if you once you conquer the dream, or you really understand the energy behind the symbols, it's just kind of like astrology. It's energy. Everyone dreams different symbols, and they mean something different to each of us. So they always say everything in the dream is a
Mm,
reflection of yourself,
mm,
right? and
right.
and then I believe there's two kinds of dreams. There's the symbolic kind, and then there's the psychic dreams, the
Can you
precognitive.
interpret dreams?
Yes, I love dreams. I have a
Can
dream
I
group. I have a dream
can I
group on
tell
Facebook.
can
Yeah.
you do that? I have a dream that I've been thinking
Yeah,
about for
tell me. I'll
years.
see if I'll give it a shot. Let's see, what is
Okay.
it.
I've been thinking about this for years. Okay, so when I was a young lad. I was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I was working with this pastor. He was a Pentecostal pastor on
Mhm.
understanding the biblical
Mhm.
texts and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We did a lot of research on it. It was very extensive research. But I had this dream during that time that was very significant, where I woke up, I opened my eyes, and I was in this room, sitting at a table, just a flat, like if you were at a hotel, right? A
Mhm.
little flat square table. and there was a shadow figure across from me, sitting across from me. And I looked at the wall, and on the wall was a map. And
Hmm.
on one side of the map, it said Greece, and on the other side, it said Rome. And that's what I just looked at that map for a moment and then looked at the shadow, and the shadow leaned forward and said, "You think you're in control, but you're not. I'm in control." And the shadow jumped into my body, and I woke up
In the dream.
in the dream. I
I
don't
think
even know what.
I think this has to do with your shadow self. You know, that like Carl Jung's theory that we have, you know, the shadow. We all have like a shadow side, a shadow
Right.
self. It could be that. Um, so the map. When did you dream this?
Oh, I'm 35 years old. This was like, I want to say 16 years ago. I was about 19 years old when I had this dream.
Okay, let me ask you this: have you traveled far away from where you were born?
Oh, lots, especially during my teenage years
There
around
you
that time.
go. I think to me, the first thing that I felt about this had to do with your destiny.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
like
Okay.
this had to do with giving you a message back then of you traveling far from where you maybe were born, maybe
Yeah.
from another culture, country, you know, going far from home, or even, hey, you know, you're going to be traveling the world. I mean, you saw Greece and Rome. You know, not sure where you were born or raised, but I think that it had something to do with that, like a message. It's kind of a message to
Okay.
your soul trying to tell you, hey, it had to do with travel because there's a map. Maps are travel. Maps are, you know, different part of the world, right?
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, were you born in Greece or Rome?
So I was born in Trenton, New Jersey.
Gotcha.
I lived in Pennsylvania for a chunk of my life, and I also lived
Mhm.
in Tacoma, Washington. So
Mhm.
I've been to South Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I've been
Mhm.
to Georgia
Mhm.
when I was in the military. I was in
Mhm.
California when I was stationed. I was in Tennessee,
Mhm.
Kentucky.
Mhm.
And this is all a part of around the same time because
Mhm.
from 16 to 19 is whenever I kind of stopped traveling for a while, but then I kept
Mhm.
traveling back and forth from Florida to Pennsylvania
Mhm.
and New Jersey.
Mhm.
So yeah, I've traveled quite a bit. Quite a bit.
Well, another thing I think of too is, you know, it could have been symbolic of something going on in your life at that time, you know, because you know you were researching religion,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and maybe
Pretty
there were some fears there, you know, because our dreams can also play out fears, you
right.
know, and there's a fear like, you know, maybe, you know, the dark entity in your mind maybe represented evil, you know,
I don't
or
know.
something.
I don't have
Yeah.
see the thing about the reason why I thought it was significant is because I don't have an attack when I have dreams that are from my daily life. There's
Hmm.
an emotional attachment to the dream and the
Hmm.
meaning or symbology in it. So, for example,
Hmm.
if I'm dealing with a person, and I used to have this all the time, I used to dream about people that I wanted to know something about. If I wanted to
Hmm.
are they good? Are they a good person to be around? Are they safe to be around? Can I trust
Hmm.
them? I would have dreams about these people, and my dreams would tell me. This is
Yeah.
going to sound bizarre. I sound so
No,
insane.
no, nothing's bizarre to me. Believe me, I've heard everything. Don't even. I got some other scary stories I could
Yeah.
tell. I am not saying it on the air, but
Right.
I got others experiences, so don't worry.
Well, I've had some very vivid and very telling dreams about people, but I
Hmm.
didn't like it, so made myself stop having them so I could have a
Hmm.
normal life and
Yeah.
not. I would rather just like see it a different way than have to have those dreams. It's too weird. And so I don't
Well,
know. I mean, I don't
you're
know.
psychic. See, this is the thing. Your the way your soul speaks to the way our soul speaks to us is through the dream world, because when right before we go to sleep and right before we wake up, we are in a very special state of consciousness
Right.
that does not happen even in at all. And so when we sleep, it's kind of like our soul leaves our body, like I said, because our body, it's almost like you're dead when you go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
breath, everything slows down. And you know, I a lot of theories, you know, and the hypnosis stuff I've studied too, believe that we leave our body every night when we go to sleep, and we're traveling and we're going places. And some people have dreams. 12th house people, for instance, and 8th housers typically are like you and me. They
Hmm.
dream about the future. They have these very vivid dreams that are very deep. Okay, they mean something, and it's nothing to be afraid of. This could be your spiritual gift that you could use to help other people.
Huh.
You know what I mean? Because look at the Bible. I mean, look how many dreams are mentioned in the Bible that God gave dreams to people. I mean, it's mentioned all throughout all the religions. Dreams have been a part of our spiritual consciousness. So they're important. They're really important.
Well, I will say this much: I fear personally, and I don't know what you have to say. And the chat hates it when I make it up myself. I fear having those abilities because I feel like sometimes, when I used to think, oh, if who wouldn't want superpowers, right? But when you think about precognition, real abilities, precognition, psychic phenomena, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you're able to see things that other people do not see. And if you try to tell someone something,
Mm-hmm.
then they will reject what you have to say, and it can cause conflict in your relationships. And what I came across was I would
Mm-hmm.
see things about people that
Mm-hmm.
I'd try to find a way to warn them about it, like to tell them
Mm-hmm.
about that. And they would be upset with me because, for one,
Uh-huh.
they weren't ready to hear it,
Yes.
and they didn't believe me. And even when these
Yes.
things played out, they would still be in denial about the fact that I literally just said that to them. So I
Yes.
had all these things made me stop it. I didn't want it anymore. What's the point of having an ability? I didn't call it an ability. I just figured it was just something that happens. Why
Yeah.
have this thing happen when it only causes you more conflict in your life? That's why I stopped,
Really?
entertaining it.
Well, you know what? I kind of went through that struggle myself, with with dreaming about people, especially if I wasn't really close with them. Like I typically dream about people that are in my environment, or work or wherever, and I may not know them well, and I think, well, if I said anything to them, they think I'm crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so I went through this many times in my life, where I wanted to share something that I felt or saw in a dream about someone to help kind of prepare them.
yeah,
But what I learned is that, like you probably learned, what we see and feel, it happens regardless.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so I what I would do is, I call it discernment. If I felt very strong that I had to tell that person, I would do it. But if I was any doubt at all in my heart, like I would literally go within and I would say,
yeah,
am I
yeah,
meant to tell them this? If I had any kind of, the energy, if the energy wasn't right, I would not tell them. And I started practicing this, and it was hard because as soon as I had it happen, I want to tell them, right? You want to tell them. But like you said, some people are not ready to hear it and they're not
yeah.
open minded. But let me share you a story with you. And one time it happened to me, and I waited for the right time, and something was said to me by someone that knew this person that I had been dreaming about. And when she told me this was years ago, I thought that was my sign. I'm meant to tell this person. And I took the risk, and I went, and I went down, met with them in the office. This was, years ago. And I said, hey, can I talk to you? I said, I had a dream about you and it really bothered me. And they're, oh, what
Mm,
did you dream? They were open minded to dreams in a way, right? I said, well, I dreamed about your father, and he's worried about you. Something's wrong,
mm,
and something's going to happen, and I don't know what. But I was like in the house with this person's father. I mean, it was very detailed, and I don't know this person at all personally. And so I had to tell him because it felt like I was meant to. And after all these things played out, and that person knew
mm.
that I had kind of freaked them out in a way, but they wanted to know what I actually knew, and they came and opened up, and they didn't believe in God. They told me they were an atheist. Okay.
Yeah,
And so and so this whole thing happened because this was meant to open up their mind that there's more to life than they believe. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And so I kept saying, so you know that I dreamed all of this and told you about this before it happened, and you still don't believe that there's a purpose to life. Like you still
mm,
don't believe you're a soul, or that
right. Yeah,
that there's an energy, whatever you want to call it, a
something.
consciousness. Yeah. Because how would, if there wasn't a destiny, and there weren't certain things that were planned to happen to us no matter what, how would I dream about the future?
Yeah.
Because
There's
I'm not.
something, yeah, there's
Yeah,
something, I
right.
don't know, like when you tell people, okay, so for example, there's this physical world that we see, we interact with, that we can understand and comprehend the nature of. But then there's something else that ties it. It feels like it ties it all together. Like it's an underlying reality that permeates all of this. And it's even more real and more powerful than what we see and feel and experience with our five senses, or six, if you will.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I think that what I experienced, the fear and the feeling of, you hear people say, when I was a kid, I used to see dead people, or I used to see ghosts or spirits or whatever. But I stopped doing that because my parents told me that I was crazy. I heard someone tell me recently that their parents took them to a psychologist
Yes.
for having these visions that they would happen.
Yes.
But their parents said, well, they need to stop because that's not normal. And so they literally saw a psychiatrist until the psychiatrist convinced them that that's not real. They're just making it up. It's make believe. That's what I feel like. I don't even know what to make of that. I'm not into that field, to be honest. I rejected it.
Yeah.
But what do you have to say for that? I mean,
well, I'm very open-minded, as a psychologist, as a social worker, a psychologist. There are a lot of mental health professionals that are getting more interested in all these things, in astrology and past lives and hypnosis and Reiki energy healing, because people are realizing that traditional therapies aren't always working, and putting people on medication is not going to solve it. So let me tell you a story about a little eighth house person years ago, a little boy that I met when I was like in my 20s. Somebody asked me to help this little boy because they were friends with his mother, and he was waking up at night and he was seeing some man at the foot of his bed. And he was having these very vivid dreams and kind of drawing cemeteries and tombstones. He was like obsessed with death. Okay. And I went and I did this little guy's chart, and he had a stellium in the eighth house, which is about my research, in Scorpio. Right. And and all these doctors were telling her, oh, you need to put him on medicine, just like you're talking about. And I said, no. I said, he is very sensitive to energy. He has a spiritual ability. And I said, did you ask him who if he knew who it was? Come to find out, it was his grandfather. He had never met him. And when the mother asked him to describe, I said, have him describe who this is he's seeing, right?
I'm sorry. Random guy shot. Oh my God.
What happened?
Just I can't stand this guy. He just said we look like Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg because
I love it. I love it.
That's fantastic. I love this guy. He's actually pretty awesome. He's a comedian. So if you guys see him in the chat, that's why.
That's pretty funny. I love it. I love it.
I'm so sorry for that. That was just too funny. I had to tell you. Okay, so just so you guys know, she's obviously a very lighthearted person too, so she can take a joke. I appreciate that, random guy. That was a great moment. Thank you so much for that. You do this. He's awesome, seriously. He's a doofus.
Oh my God.
All right. So anyway, I apologize. Please continue.
No worries. So yeah, this little guy, he was describing his grandfather. And she showed him a picture, and he said, that's who's in my room, Mom.
Yeah.
And he was like 10, he was little, not too little, but 10. And so I've always believed that if you can figure something out naturally, and I believe, astrology is a tool that I believe that can help you heal things, and it's so deep. It's like one session is deeper than 8 therapy sessions, right, with a normal counselor. Because talk therapy, just talking, doesn't work for everybody.
No.
And I've worked a lot with trauma survivors and children, adults, my whole life. And astrology really is a powerful tool. And I find that a lot of people that have trauma have eighth house planets and Scorpio energy in their chart. And so I try to relate that, like, hey, this is the energy of your personality. These are things that you were meant to go through, that you chose, to experience so you could help other people. And so, I use astrology as like I said, to help people heal. But I see what you're saying, but I have that question a lot because a lot of people, I get 2 things. Either, well, you're a counselor, how can you believe in this? Well, because Carl Jung believed in astrology.
Right.
And
the government spent millions of dollars researching whether it be psychic phenomena, ghosts. I mean, Mick West jokes about it, but werewolves in the 1800s, he talked about that too. But I mean, they know there's something to the paranormal. They know there is, including remote viewing and so forth, to collect information on the enemy. So,
and that's kind of like, you know, Duke University used to have the Rhine Research Center, and they did the parapsychology research, and I've, you know, I'm really into that. I'm really into the, especially dreams, but you know, twins, research on twins and their connection with each other, knowing when one twin is injured or hurt. You know, there's all, it's really cool research. And, you know, I believe in a lot of stuff. So, you know, if you really want to get weird, you know, because a lot of people believe, you know, that are very dogmatic, let me say, or traditionally raised to be really religious, you know, they think astrology is wrong or evil and all this stuff. And that's what I'm trying to break.
The Bible don't they talk about, like, people used to read bones? I think there was a tradition of reading bones, which I didn't even know myself that was a biblical thing, but they did that in the Bible, and they read the stars too. I think the Jewish traditions of like reading the stars is there. The Kabbalah is a whole thing as well. I mean, there's let's not neglect the totality of all of these different philosophies. So,
well, astrology is in the Bible. It's in the book of Genesis. It's in the book of Revelation. And Jesus himself talked about astrology. He said there'll be signs in the sun, moon, and stars of his return. He told him to follow the man with the alabaster jar in the house he dwells. That's the sign of Aquarius. The Aquarian age. Wow. Yes. Yeah. Wow. And I've been researching that. I got some articles out there about Christian astrology, but it's really cool because, you know, when I traveled, you know, different churches all over the world, Europe, Turkey, Egypt, I've been everywhere. And there's astrological symbols within churches all over the world. Why? Why are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac in Catholic churches? I mean,
that's a good question. That's a good question.
Because
they know. I think they know there's something to it.
Yeah, and they say the Vatican has the largest astrological library in the world, and that the Pope has his own astrologer. So, I mean, we know Ronald Reagan had his own astrologer too, because Nancy Reagan was a believer. But you know, there's lots of. Let me tell you this: the DC zodiacs. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
Okay.
Wait, before you start, we got to go again. I'm sorry. We got to do another break, and then we'll be right back. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go on this break again. I know you guys used Dave Scott's. I'm going to respect that timeline. We will be right back, ladies and gentlemen, after this next break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back again for some more talk about the supernatural. If you haven't already, smash that like button, abduct the subscribe, and do not forget to check out that website for that merch because I know y'all want to represent that Spaced Out Radio on your t-shirt or hoodie or maybe a coffee mug. Do so as soon as possible. All right, so let's talk more about. I want you to finish what you were saying because I had to cut off for the break. I'm so sorry
Yeah,
about
no
that.
worries.
So please.
No worries. We were talking about, just how, astrology is part of religion and all these things. So,
Yeah.
there's a book by his name's David Ovason,
Okay.
Ovason. It's called The Secret Architecture of Our Nation's Capital. So in Washington, D.C., the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
place is built on the
Yeah.
constellation of Virgo, and there are hidden, because they were Masons. They were Masons,
Right.
and they
Right.
believed in
Right.
astrology. So everything they did was astrological. Okay, with that, and it's really cool. Throughout the city, there are hidden zodiacs throughout the city. There's 32, I think, 28 or 32. I can't remember what it was. Zodiacs. They're, in the Library of Congress. They're on the ceiling. They're on the floor. There's statues. There's hidden zodiacs, astrology symbols all over the place. And in this book, it talks a little bit about it, but it's
Yeah.
really cool. And so why?
Yeah. It's interesting.
Because
It is interesting, isn't it? I find
because
it so
astrology is true.
yeah.
Astrology is a science, and it's energy in it, and that's why it's validating. And I mean, I if I wouldn't have seen how it's changed my life and other people's lives by doing charts and how validating it is, I wouldn't be doing it. If it didn't work, I wouldn't do it all these
Of
years.
course, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Which is why
so
I think that's important. The most important thing that I think of for people to notice, and I say this about a lot of things. Why do you think people would devote their lives to something? And so many people, by the way,
mhm,
if it didn't have there has to be some kind of benefit, some kind of validity to
mhm,
that. I mean, we're talking about practices that literally consume your life, right? When you're learning these topics, you don't
mhm.
spend 5 minutes reading an article. You literally wrote books on it.
Yeah,
So and again started these movements. So
yeah,
I feel like there's more stories to tell. I would hope that you can share some more about your
sure.
stories, even
Well,
if they're from somebody else. But
sure. I saw in the chat somebody asked about free will or destiny, like what, and
okay,
that's a great
that's a good question.
question. I
Yeah,
get that a lot
yeah,
with astrology, because there are very much two things I see. There's certain things in our chart that are meant to happen to us no matter what. And that's because we chose to come and learn certain lessons. So there's some things that I'm able to maybe help someone prevent if they're aware of it. Like if I can catch someone at a young age and do their chart, like before they have their Saturn return, which is age 27 to 30, I
right,
can kind of let them know, hey, don't get married during age 27 to 30, or just wait until a little bit later. If they have some type of energy in the seventh house that might be concerning, or a planet there, there's things that can be done to prevent certain things. Yes, you have free will to a point, but I also believe astrology, there's certain things that are destined.
mm.
And I believe in both. It's a little bit of both, if that makes sense.
Well,
And
I think I personally think the same thing. I think that there's both, where some things are predestined. I guess there's like a grand scheme, but there's choice between that.
mhm.
You can still have somewhat of a choice. The question is to what extent. Which one do you think has more weight?
I think, what Edgar Casey said. He said, astrology is fact, but there's no greater power over man than his own will.
Okay.
So our mind, and our mind creates our reality. This is what almost all religion, ancient cultures, Dolores Cannon, the hypnosis, all the research from all these spiritual people, our mind is powerful, like The Secret, right?
Yeah, The
Manifestation,
Secret. Right. Right.
the
Yeah. Law of
laws of the
attraction.
universe, right? Our mind is powerful, and sometimes, our thoughts affect our emotions, our thoughts affect our health, our body. So it's like, it's powerful, and I think people are still trying to figure out how to utilize it, right? How, like, do vision boards, and yeah, make your list and visualize what you want, and it sounds hocus pocus, but it really is through all ancient religions
Yeah.
about the power of the mind and your thoughts. and it's mentioned, I believe that certain things though are part of past lifetimes. They're karma. I believe we have karma, and some of this karma has to be balanced, and that's why we come back and we keep coming back again, is to heal and to forgive people and to balance out the past.
Right. You know, I have a there's a conflict within myself about this concept.
Mhm.
Whether you believe in karma, reincarnation, heaven, hell, life after death, whatever, I really do feel like it's kind of unfair that we don't have a conscious understanding of what the implications of our decisions in this life are. Yes, we do understand that there are certain things we need to do to kind of align ourselves to what's better for us.
Yeah.
But if we really understood that, like, you're just reincarnating for however many, times that you're learning, this is learning experience, that, for example, again, there's a heaven, there's a hell, there's a life after death, there's a happy place, there's a sad place. If we really knew it, right? Instead of having all these different beliefs about it, I think we make very different choices. Because when I talk to atheists, for example, they'll say, man, if I knew that there was a God, I wouldn't be doing half the stuff I do. I would I would change my whole life around like that.
Sure.
And I feel like that's unfair because it seems like humanity is like blinded by something.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that's a part of the process that it is like a natural thing? Like, in order for you to attain this level of enlightenment, understanding, maturity, spiritual development, whatever, you have to go through these processes blindly? Or do you think that blindness is imposed upon us?
That's a good question. I think it has to do with your experiences and your soul's evolution, what you bring into this life, what you've learned, what you've mastered. So, some people, that have psychic abilities, or, even yogis, and all this stuff, I believe that they've studied, they've learned, they've done certain things so they can be at that kind of a spiritual level, right? So I believe that our soul brings all this with us each lifetime.
Because, so we have an understanding that's somewhat inside of ourselves.
Yes. Okay. And they talk about there's young souls, there's old souls, right? There's new, some souls are older than others, or whatever you want to call it. I believe that. And then there's theories, that souls that are animals. This is something I just read in the Dolores Cannon stuff, that animals have not been human, but they're trying to be at that level. But their soul is not. They're souls, but they're not like a human soul.
Right.
They love, and we know animals are just so loving and have us, how can you not think animals don't have souls?
That's a good question. Yeah. So animal souls are different than human souls. So humans can't reincarnate as an animal?
That is what the theory is. Yes.
Okay.
Now this is what, some religions believe they can, but most of the theories, Dolores Cannon's theories from the records and hypnosis and all this stuff from the readings she did all those years from people going back to their past lives, and even people who remembered being on UFOs or being from other planets. I mean, people have remembered all kinds of past lives, not being human, so to speak, right? Some people believe that, but I think there's a theory that, maybe we did start as grass or a tree and then an animal, and then it's like it's energy,
an evolutionary kind of
but it's an essence. It's we have a consciousness that kind of goes. But once I was told that the human soul isn't evolved, it's highly evolved, and so you don't go back into an animal or anything like that. This is just theories. I mean, I don't know. I mean everything, but I know what I believe. What I've read, and
I respect, again, I want to know about you and what you think. This is about you. This is literally about you. So it doesn't matter if you have by the way, how much time do I have with you? Because I won't take up all the night. I do have to at least the last hour of the show. In about 20 minutes.
10 minutes. 20 minutes.
10 minutes is good. 10 minutes is good.
Let's do 10 minutes. Let's do 10 minutes.
So
What do you
Yeah,
want?
go
What did
ahead.
you ask me? Yeah, what did you ask me to share?
I have one last question, and then if you have anything you'd like to share with the audience,
Okay.
by all means. The last question I have is, I always ask this question because I think it's important. Let me preface. I believe that for thousands of years, we've been interacting with some kind of consciousness, some kind of intelligence that now people are calling UAP, but at one time they were called gods. Today, we call them aliens and ETs and grays. But thousands of years ago, the Egyptians called them the gods. The Mayans called them gods, the Anunnaki. The Bible talks about angels, and there's a lot of different. There was jinn in the Muslim traditions, and I can go on and ad infinitum for this one, right? What do you think that phenomena is?
Man, well, I'll be honest. I'm very open minded to that. There's something to this. There's something to this, and I'll say this because of past life memories that I've had and that I know other people have had, specifically in Egypt, where there's people have shared with me experiences, and I've read a lot about it, where the Egyptians left Earth, and they left Earth with people that came from the sky in ships.
Wow,
I
that's
mean,
so
there's
interesting. Okay.
okay,
Okay.
because I'm not sure, what happened, but they had to leave, and it was like they were here to help us, so to speak. I don't know, or I don't know what that connection is, but there's there's something with Egypt. I do know that. I've heard this a lot, and I've especially with the grays specifically. I've heard people have memories like hit under hypnosis of this kind of thing, and so I've known people share with me that they've seen UFOs. They've seen actually something like a gray, an alien, whatever you want to call it. And I don't doubt them. I mean, I know that I've experienced some things that until you experience something, you can't really say it's not true. And,
Right.
and the
Right.
thing, it's kind of like I have a family member that was really sick once, and they wouldn't go to the doctor, and they were having like a gallbladder attack, and they woke up and they looked down and saw themselves in the bed. They were up
Oh,
above their body.
okay.
And this is someone that didn't really believe, in all this stuff. But then all of a sudden they were back in their body and they were in all this pain. Well, they really died. Like they left their
Oh
body,
man. Yeah.
and they came back. And so that experience kind of scared them. And I believe that there could be there could be humans on other planets out in other solar systems for all we know. I mean, there
There
could
could
be.
be.
I mean,
Yeah.
really. I mean, I'm open minded, but I think that whatever people are seeing in the sky, UAPs, whatever you call them, I think
Yep.
that they've been around since ancient times. I
I'm
think
with
that
you.
the Native Americans used to call, the Stargate, the
Star.
star
Yep.
people, the
Yep.
people
Yep.
that came down and all of that. And I mean, look at Sedona. When I go to Sedona, Arizona, like I feel like it's a special place. Like I can't physically stay there in Sedona for more than 2 days. I physically, energy wise, I am like, I don't sleep. I have a really hard time there. And I believe there's something special about Sedona. And I know there's a lot of theories about that, is where they used to do special
Yeah.
ceremonies, and no one was supposed to live there. The Native Americans did not live there. They only went there because it was a sacred place.
Right.
And I think that, we have these sites all over the world, right? Like Stonehenge, the pyramids. Okay. Do you think the pyramids are really built by people? I always
I.
I
Yeah.
don't think they did.
So
I
I just heard a.
Yeah.
I'm going to share this with the chat after you go, but I just heard someone mention that there's allegedly a base where the government is able to levitate stones and rotate them with like one person. And when you think about the pyramids and how they were built, whatever that technology is, what if it's
Wow.
ancient, right?
Wow. Well, this other thing. Where did all of the history go? I mean, look at these ancient civilizations, and like, it's like what happened to everything. Like I
Yeah.
remember going to Turkey, and I went to Ephesus, Turkey, and they were doing a tour of the city, and it just the monuments. They had a coliseum. They had water. They had pipes. They had like a sewer system in that time. Okay, what? And then my grandparents were growing up. They had outhouses. I mean, what happened? I mean, this is just something I don't know, but
Yeah.
You
I
know?
wonder the same thing. We know the Smithsonian is hiding stuff. We got plenty of obvious signs of that, and of course the government for some reason. Why are they involved in any archaeological digs? Why would NASA,
Yeah.
for example, be involved in any archaeological digs? But apparently they are.
Uh-huh.
In indigenous populations and stuff like that. What's the purpose of that? Why are they doing that? It's really strange, in my opinion.
Well, I think what's happening is that we're all here at this time in the world, and we've been here before. We may have been, the lost city of Atlantis. There's all these different things that are going that are theories.
Yeah.
When we lived on Atlantis, when people lived on Atlantis, we could leave our bodies and come in and out of our body. Our soul, our spirit, our essence, our consciousness didn't need bodies, is what I read. I read about this.
Interesting.
And Edgar Casey talks a little bit about about Atlanteans and souls that were in Atlantis and kind of about it. But what was my point? My point was there's so much that we don't know, but I think that this is the age we're getting ready to go into, the age of Aquarius. So
Right.
if you think about it, Pluto, the planet of cataclysmic change and growth and awakening and healing and exposing the truth, is Pluto, bringing the truth and things that are hidden to light. And we're getting ready to go. That Pluto will go into Aquarius for good for almost 20 something years coming up this fall, I believe it is. So it's kind of going. It went into Aquarius, went back into Capricorn. It's kind of rotating. But when it's in there for good, I think we're going to have a lot of things that the whole world is going to know. And we're going to find out a lot of truths about a lot of these topics. I mean, look what just happened on the news not too long ago. There were lights in the sky over they weren't air balloons. Okay. Maybe there was a balloon, right?
There was
Okay.
one balloon and the rest, they don't even know what they were.
They don't know,
they
and they
flew.
couldn't find them,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
but when in my life, I've never seen that on the news before. I mean, like that. I mean, that was pretty intense. So, see what I'm
We
saying?
had the president. We had Canada talk, like the Canadian government talking about it. We had NORAD was involved with with the whole. I mean, this was like everybody was talking about.
And they
this.
told us. I mean, we were watching it on the news. It wasn't secret. And so I think slowly these things are coming to revelation. And that's what I think we're going in this age of Aquarius, because if you think about it, Christianity was created during the age of Pisces. And that's why Jesus is associated with the fish. Christianity is the fish. It's the age of Pisces. We're going to be in the age of Aquarius. Oh. We're in it now already, is what people believe. We're already experiencing some of this stuff. I mean, people are getting more open-minded about stuff. I mean, people are talking about this stuff. And so I think there's going to come a day where no one can deny some of these things. That's just my opinion.
I'm with you. I think we are at I mean, I'm not sure about the age of Aquarius because I don't have the knowledge to speak about that. But I think that you're right personally, because I'm agree. I think something is changing. Something is very different right now.
Yes.
If people don't notice it, you're just literally you're an ostrich. You just plant your head in the sand, because the reality is things are changing. So
it's like an awakening, like there's theories, there's a lot of books called like about the ascension.
Right. Yeah.
Ascension theories, the O negative, the RH factor theories. And if you think about it, nobody really knows where the RH bloodline came from. That's the issue.
Right. I hear about that a lot. Actually.
Yeah. And that's a scientific fact. I mean, they try to explain it if you Google it, but there's a lot of research and books out there about it, about RH negative folks, that we came from an alien race. I don't know. I'm open-minded.
Right.
I know that a lot of RH negative people believe in these mystical spiritual things. They're kind of born different. And that's kind of what I talk about in my Phoenixes and Angels book, 8th and 12th Housers. They have experiences with these kind of things. Yeah.
Oh, Red's toothbrush, you better calm down, son. Everybody wants to know how tall I am, because I joke about how tall I'm not.
Oh, well, I know. I hate being short. I always hated being short.
I've embraced it. Carmen, why don't you tell people where they can find you? Because again, I appreciate the time you spent with me. I know I tend to extend conversations well beyond what they're supposed to be. So I apologize.
Cool. No worries.
But I want to thank you. Where can they find you? What would you like for people to do?
Please, follow me on my Facebook page, Deep Soul Divers Astrology, Carmen Turner-Schott, and then I have a author page, Carmen Turner-Schott Writer on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Carmen Turner-Schott Author, and then I have a YouTube channel, Carmen Turner-Schott, and then my website is www.carmenturnerschott.com. Love you to follow me on social media and everything, and I post different classes that I offer. I like to teach different books that I have out, and I do book giveaways sometimes. So if you want a free book, you can sign up and join my newsletter on my website, and I'll send you some emails if you want. If not, you don't have to. But
I encourage people to do that, by the way. Yeah, people, please. I know there's a lot of people in chat who are interested. I highly encourage you to check out the website, sign up to the newsletter. Definitely get the book, because I can tell you right now, I'm going to get the book. I think there's going to be some information in there that will at least bring some kind of enlightenment to your understanding of this field. So,
yes. Let me end with, if you've never had a birth chart done, you can go to astro.com, or someone mentioned cafe.com. Astro.com is kind of what I use. You can know your month, date, year of birth, exact time of birth is important, AM or PM. On your birth certificate, baby book, parents, whatever you can do to find that exact time is very important to get an accurate map of your soul. And then your city, state, country. And then you can see if you have planets in the 8th and 12th houses in the birth wheel. If you do, you're going to love the book. It's going to validate your experience. And if you have a lot of Scorpio or Pisces in your chart, you're going to resonate with my book and with my research. So love for you to join my Facebook groups, the 12th house, 8th house groups on Facebook as well. And we share astrology knowledge and stories, supernatural stories. I mean, people share those things in the groups, because it's a real support group for people that believe in things that can't be explained.
Thank you, Carmen. With that, everybody, we're going to go on our next break. Carmen, thank you for being with us. Chat, please give Carmen a very, very loving and warm farewell. And until next time, I'll see you, Carmen. It was a pleasure talking to you. It was very, very nice.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. All right, guys.
It's been a pleasure. No problem. Take care. All right, guys. We'll be right back after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our, number 1.5. We got Terry with us. What's up, Terry?
Hi guys, how you doing? How you doing, Marquise?
Fantastic, fantastic. It's a pleasure. If you haven't already, everybody smash that like button, abduct the subscribe, and don't forget, check out that merch on space.radio.com. Now, Terry, what do we got to talk about tonight? Because I had a lot of things that have been on my mind lately. They've been weighing heavily on me, but you had some things too. So,
Yeah.
What were those things? Let's talk about it. Thank you so much, Deb, by the way. Appreciate that. That's love.
Well, we were talking yesterday, and what I noticed was in the last, I've only been to a few UFO conferences, I guess you would call them. And the last couple of them that I've been to, there's been like a 50-50 split of people there. People that are just recently brought into this, and people who've been doing it like we have for a long time.
Right.
But what I noticed with the new people, and what's kind of got me a little bit worried about what's going on with what they're doing in Congress and everything else, because you guys all well know, just like they said about who was it? Was it Chuck Schumer or Burchett, that they don't come forward unless a fire's behind them?
Yeah,
You know,
there was a couple. Yeah, it was interesting.
and they definitely don't use the vernacular UFO, UAP, and Congress. At least they haven't until now. I mean, just getting them to say that's been. So most of the people that I've talked to who have been brought into this recently have been brought into it kicking and screaming. I mean, I actually had one person tell me that they felt like they were getting abducted every night when they went to sleep because they were having episodic type dreams.
Mm.
But it seems the majority of these new people, quote unquote, just don't have much good to say when you ask them what kind of things they've been shown. It's pretty bleak, to be real honest about it.
Well,
And
what do you mean? So, just to be clear, you mean like they're holding their cards tight to their chest, or they don't have anything?
no, it's not that they're holding their cards tight to their chest. It's they're saying what they're being shown of what our possible future is kind of what you would expect to see after some pretty outright, flat out war. There's just not much left.
Well, let me tell you something, man. And I actually have. I mean, there's a lot of roads we can go down with this, because lately I've been seeing a lot of troubling comments made by commentators. One of which, you know what, I'm actually going to pull this up for you now that you're mentioning this. This is going to dovetail off what Terry just said, guys. I think what Terry's alluding to, this is going to dovetail off of what he's alluding to. And it's a comment made by Bryce Sable on the Weaponized podcast, where he mentions that Schumer said, he mentions the fire that may be behind Schumer's back. Let's take a look at this real quick. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I sure do.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at that real quick. Let me know if the volume's good, guys. Well, I'm not sure if it's going to be great, but let me know if it's good. Okay, I don't want you to miss. I don't want people to miss that. You have to listen to what he just said. He said it's hard. It's hard to sort out what the sources are saying, which means they're being told something behind the scenes that is essentially vague, that isn't specific. But you know how they allude to things? Sources will allude to things because they can't tell you specifics for obvious reasons, breaking security clearances, violating oaths, and so forth. But they're trying to allude to something. No sound? Did they just say no sound? Everybody said there's no sound. Did you hear that, Terry?
I'm reading it. I'm seeing it in the chat. It says no sound, brother.
Did you hear anything, Terry?
No, I didn't. I didn't hear
Oh my
anything.
God. Okay, hold on one
Matter of
second.
fact, I didn't see anything either.
All right, hold on. I'm going to try to pull this back up because apparently it didn't work. One sec, guys. We'll do this again. So,
Mr. Rob Brown Dwarf, salute.
yeah. One sec, guys. Let me pull this.
Hello, RG.
All right, let's pull this up again. Ready? Let's go.
There's got to be a reason why the powers that be in Washington, D.C. are starting to say we need to actually say the words out loud, and we need to get language in right now to get this taken care of. And I'm concerned, Ross, that at the end of the day, the only thing that would make a politician do that and act in that sort of enhanced way where they're in a hurry is that there's some bad news involved in this. And I don't know exactly what it is. And I know that you don't know exactly what it is. People are talking. It's hard to sort out what the sources mean or don't mean. But
okay, right there. That's what I'm saying. So again, it's hard to sort out what the sources mean or don't mean. I mean, he's pretty clearly saying that there's some bad news attached to this rush. I mean, guys, think about it. Not even a month ago, we were hearing, we don't even know what Dave Grush is really talking about. Now there's legislation, there's an amendment that mentions non-human intelligence. Gary Nolan is essentially supporting the investigation of a Reddit post by an alleged biologist who claims to have worked on these bodies. Whitley Strieber is saying, yes, this is exactly how these things are biologically. There's a lot going on in the background. And I think we need to pay attention. Thomas Fusser, what's up? Welcome to the chat. Good to see you in the chat, brother.
Hey, Thomas. Hi.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that moment there is
Timmy and Dave are on
important.
vacation. Sorry, Marquise. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No, it's okay.
yeah.
So the question is, what is the bad news? And why does he seem so grim when he says it? Because it seems like the bad news is about all of us. Let's finish this off.
you know, as I said, Chuck Schumer was and has been a cautious man in many cases. And I don't think he'd be talking like this and pushing this if he didn't think there was a fire behind his back pushing him to do so.
Look, I've got a pretty clear idea of what the government knows, and I can understand why they're moving to expedite. Yes, there is a constraint of time. The government knows that it really does have to tell the truth to the public after years of treating the subject with derision.
Guys, I heard that too, and I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
There's something else that ties in with this too, Marquise, that a lot of people aren't aware about. The Space Force took over a good portion of the helioscopic telescopes. And a helioscopic telescope is what you use to look at the sun, right?
Right.
Used to be you could hide behind the moon until the recent space race where everybody and their brothers sticking something out there. The only other place to hide in our solar system really would be behind the sun.
Yeah.
And so why would the Space Force not only take over the helioscopic telescopes, but most of the emergency rescue type stuff for if the S hits the fan? They've taken over all of that too. It seems kind of odd that something that was just made by our last president now has pretty much carte blanche to run everything when something like this happens.
Yeah, it's like we went from hearing nothing to hearing so many things. Like I just feel like something isn't. I mean, again, it's great. I'm happy that we're getting disclosure, but attached to that is potentially some grim news. That's kind of the impression I'm getting.
You've got the oh my goodness, what is it called again? It's the whole Disclosure Act thing, the unidentified anomalous phenomena disclosure title.
Yep. That's the name of it. That's the yeah.
And so Thomas Fessler earlier in his show today, and Rob as well in the Social Dig, we're both asking what really should be next. Thomas was saying maybe they should be having like town hall meetings and discussing this from place to place to place to place to
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
For me and some people that I know, everybody knows about this RV and that we built an RV to go touring around and checking out UFO hotspots with, right?
Right. Right.
Well, we originally thought that it was our idea, mine and Tim Senor's. We're driving back late from Utah one night. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're just talking stupid. And I said, Tim, you come from the film industry where they have all of these vans that go scout and stuff. And I come from the oil field where they have all kinds of lab vans out there. Let's build a lab, a mobile lab. Well, like I said, where we thought it was our idea, everything for this whole deal has kind of sort of fell in our lap without really any pushing on it. Originally, we started out and our first few ventures were like you would expect your first few ventures to be.
Yeah.
But once word got out about this thing, the people that have reached out to us and want to do things with this, to me is I'm mind blown because here I was. The first time this RV pulled out of this driveway was July 29th of last year. And now we have people involved with this thing that I've fanboyed over for years and never thought they'd work together. But because of what's going on now, the walls are falling down.
Yeah. Yeah.
The old guard in the UFO field are now, instead of staying behind their own fences and running their own little deal, are actually starting to come together and work together to try to get the answers that we so need. And Thomas wondered what was the next step. For us, this is the next step. For the public to go out, gear heavy, because the stuff that you can get nowadays to go adventuring with is just phenomenal. We've
Right.
got everything from the SDR Kraken radar on this thing. It's Starlink, so we've got internet everywhere we go, all the way down to a weather station and fleets of drones and day and night vision cameras and psionics cameras. I
Yeah.
mean,
That's cool. That's cool.
the stuff you
Yeah.
can get nowadays is just phenomenal.
That's really
And
cool.
what we're taking out with us this time for this venture that we're just fixing to go on next week. Greg's been with us on our very first trip. Greg and I had quite the adventure, didn't we, Greg? But yeah, so we're going out pretty gear heavy this time with some people of note. And we're going to a couple of hot spots that I think we'll have any problem getting the kind of evidence that everybody's been kind of looking for.
You talking like Skinwalker Ranch type hotspots or just
Yeah,
phenomena?
we're going down to Utah and we're going to Arizona, and then we're going to come back up here to a place here in Oregon.
Derek, stop it. Stop it. Sorry, just got sometimes the jackets. I can't stand these dudes. They're so guys. Come on, Derek. There to that point, there's the hitchhiker effect that you're aware of. You're not concerned at all?
The last time I had anything to do with the hitchhiker effect, it was at the time I didn't know it, but it was for a positive means.
Okay.
When
Well, I mean-
we were in Utah on Blind Frog Ranch, the very, very first time I set foot on that property, something I didn't know what was going on. But when I was a kid, my dad was in the military. There was always boxes of ammunition laying around being stupid kids. We had a pipe, a hammer, a nail, and a bench vise, and a whole bunch of bullets. Well, I ended up with basically a piece of lead in my chest. And it sat on one side of my chest since I was 13 years old. never moved. Actually, it went into my collarbone and it eventually settled down here. Um, Driving on to Blind Frog Ranch that day, which where we were situated was right in, I mean, almost dead center of in between Blind Frog and Skinwalker ranches. We were almost dead center in the middle of it. We were in a place called Jensen.
Hmm.
And turned off the road and I started getting sick, like almost feeling like car sick. But by the time we got back to the ranch, I couldn't hardly walk. I was just drenched in sweat. I got out and there's a particular place there that's almost like a well of souls or something. I have no
That's
idea,
so
but
weird. Yeah.
by the time I got back to town, I stumbled out of the van and walked into my hotel room and fell on the floor.
Oh.
Tim went into the ranch. Dwayne asked him where I was. Tim told him what was going on. Dwayne said, "Go get him right now. Go get him. He needs to." So Tim come back to get me. He's knocking on the door to the hotel, to my room, and he's got a camera running, right? And when I opened the door, Tim said, "Who's in there with you?" I said, "Nobody, dude. I'm in here by myself, right?" Well, apparently on the film, there's something that goes right in front of the window behind me.
Wow.
Well, Tim had heard the story about the bullet that laid in my chest. And before we walked out of the room that day, for some reason, I have no idea, he asked me, "Let me see that." And when I went to show him, it had been moved to the other side of my chest, right?
Yeah. Okay. I remember. Okay.
No,
Okay.
no swelling, no edema, no bruising. Didn't even know it happened. Had no idea. And we're freaking out by now, right? Because I've got x-rays that show where this thing was.
Yeah.
And so 3 weeks later, I'm here at the ranch, here at home, and I'm leaning over the fence petting one of my horses, and I popped a rib where that bullet was.
Hmm.
And if that would have still been laying there, they would have had to have actually cracked my chest to get it out.
Wow.
So whatever we're doing with this RV thing, because this thing's been like the Field of Dreams, dude. I mean, really, we built it, and you know what that movie say? If you build it, they will come. Well, we
Yeah. If you
sure
build it, they
have.
will come. Yeah.
And this the synergy that's involved with this, and the synchronicities that just repeatedly happen. We've realized that you know, I'm not. I'm just along for the ride, man. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen with this thing, but something is going to come
Yeah.
out of this and all we're trying to do is just get empirical evidence. We're not trying to put a spin on anything or
Right.
nothing like that. Like we take the stuff that we record and we send it out to experts. One of the things that we did, Tim got something really odd on a psionics camera, one of these, right? And what did he do? He sent the film back to psionics, the people who
Yeah.
built the camera, and said, "Hey, can you tell me what I filmed?"
Hmm.
And so once we do that, we get the evidence back. If it's something that should be pushed out there, then that's what we're going to do with it. Every bit of this is going to be open stream. And Greg will remember this. We had a camera mounted right there that drove Greg and I both nuts because it was almost like you're being spied on 24/7. But there's that camera there, and there's 5 cameras that mount to the exterior of this thing. There's these that are pointed up, and they're on all 4 corners of the RV, so you can get an overlapping field of view and show a 360 sky. And then this one points out to where we're all working. So if you're in here, you're on camera. If you're out there, you're on camera.
Hmm.
And so everything's going to be basically open source, no paywall stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually what we're going to end up doing, and it's all set up right over there right now, is start just live streaming from the Trent property in here in Oregon. I also own the Trent property, and so we're going to start live streaming the sky from the Trent property.
Well, this is an effort that I think not many people are doing what you're doing. I think this is like in terms of the amount of people that are watching versus the people that are doing, it's rare. I talk, right? I'm just a commentator, talk show host. I'm not out there on the field like you are. I think it's essential. I think this is the kind of stuff that like Skinwalker Ranch is trying to do, where they're getting out there, they have the equipment, they're trying to essentially engage the phenomena. Going to these places that personally I wouldn't go to these places. I'm just going to be honest with you. I just feel like hey, you may have had a positive experience, but I've heard enough of the negative ones that I'm not interested. I'm just going to be honest with you.
When it happened to me, trust me, it was not positive in any way, shape, or form, dude.
Yeah, that's actually one of the most confusing things to me about Nicole. Actually, she challenged me before about the data on the experiencer phenomenon. That there was one study that was done decades ago, mind you, where I think it was like 5,000 abductees. And by the way, there are abductees who have been taken, and then there are contactees who have a completely different experience than abductees. Typically, and this is based off the research, abductees, especially initially, have a very negative experience. Anything from assault to violent encounters, medical experiments with no anesthesia, putting things inside of people's noses, touching their brains, if you believe in the abduction phenomenon at all, and they take their brains off, like they cut people's heads off, take them off, part of their head off, like they're doing brain surgery, and then put it back on like nothing ever happened. Now, again, I don't know if this stuff is actually happening or if it's just part of the experience, but there are the Monroe Institute. Nicole is talking about the work of CCRI and the Monroe Institute. But this is the thing, that most people who've had these experiences would not stop them. They would continue the experiences even though they're terrifying. Now,
look at communion.
Yeah, Whitley Strieber's account is terrifying.
Strieber.
Honestly, yeah. But he said recently, he just said it the other day, he said he wouldn't change his contact for anything. He wants to keep doing it. I mean, I get a lot of mixed views from Whitley when it comes to the phenomena, because on the one hand, he does have a healthy fear of the phenomena. On the other, he appreciates the experience of having contact. So to me, I don't understand that at all.
To add to that, one of the people that I know that are having episodic dreams, when they were drug into this, it wasn't just him. Right. It was his entire family and his children. Yeah. His children have been massively affected by this. But I asked him just the other day, if we were out in the field and a UFO landed and you had the opportunity to get on, would you? He said, in a heartbeat.
Who said that?
I'm going to leave the name out of it, but
okay, no, that's okay. That's okay. No,
yeah,
okay. I don't want to.
He's having all of these black dreams, and dude, in these dreams, you can take a Pepsi or a cup of coffee and set it on the table, and come back to it tomorrow night and pick it up. It's that kind of dream.
Yeah, it's called persistence. It's called persistence,
and it's not just him.
Yeah,
his children are. I mean, it's gotten to the point now that where they've actually got their children into psychologists and psychiatrists to help these kids out because they can't sleep.
Yeah, I'm good. My experiences weren't. I mean, I was terrified, but nothing happened. I don't remember what happened. I have no memory of after I blacked out. I have no memory, nothing. So I can't say, oh, it was like I was, medically experimented on or anything. I don't remember it. I think that it is not respectful of the accounts of people that do say they have bad experiences. It's not respectful of their accounts, because what you're doing is essentially saying that, well, they're the cause of their own experience when it's happening to them. And you have to understand, it's like saying that a victim, oh, it's your fault because you got yourself into it. If you do that to somebody who's had these experiences with the phenomena, well, you can suppress more people ever coming forward, because now you make them feel like that you believe that they make their bad things happen to themselves when they believe, and this is what's the data suggests, according to the abductees, that it's happening to them. They don't get to choose what happens. They don't get to fight. They don't get to walk away. They don't get to wish it away. It just happens to them. And again, I feel like we have to be respectful to the experiencer and to the abductee, both good and the bad. But I always get confused again about that experience. I'm having a hard time tying that experience in with the UAP phenomenon that the military and the government is experiencing. It feels like they're completely different phenomena.
Well, on the hardware side of it, when you go out into the field, it's been a real learning experience. I mean, we went out there with just a whole bunch of good intentions and enough gear to have something to do, right?
Yeah.
Now when we go out, we've got everything from RF detectors to 4 or 5 different kinds of radiation detectors, and I mean gas detectors. Just on the off chance that we do run across something that the last few experiences that I've heard of up close and personal didn't leave the people in real good shape, and it was, if they would have had the right equipment, they could have avoided it. So we've found that you can start off simple. Matter of fact, there's cameras that run 24/7 all over the world all the time. And if you want to be an adventurer, if you wanted to be an investigator, plug into one of those and watch it for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a buddy who was watching one in Hawaii, watching for the surf report in Hawaii, and a UFO just went right across the screen. So everybody can have eyes on, but it doesn't take a special kind of person to do what we do. But you got to imagine that the places that we go, like where we're going in Arizona, probably going to be over 110 degrees. And when you do logistics for a trip like that, and you have 8 to 10 people that you have to plan for and take care of, not everybody can do this kind of adventure. And I'm very fortunate, man, to be included in this. For me to stop and think that these people are treating me like a peer now is just
feels good.
I've got to stop and catch my breath over it. It hasn't even got to the point, Marquise, where it feels good. I'm still just kind of
Yeah.
You know, yeah. But the more of those kind of people that we bring on gives this kind of idea more sense that the public can do this. We don't need NASA to build a $2 million truck to go look for these kind of things. We can do it ourselves. I mean, you can get on the Flight Radar 24. Everybody who's in here probably knows what that is. If you see something, you can check all the civilian flights. You can check some of the military flights even on Flight Radar 24. And if it's not there, then okay, there's a starting point. But it's a learning curve. I'm still learning. I don't think I'll ever learn enough to be as effective as I want to be. But if I get the answers that I want, that's what's important to me. That sounds selfish, but it is.
What are you looking to accomplish? What's your goal?
Just to answer the big why certain people are chosen to, because I think that the people who have been drug into this here recently are, a lot of them have been chosen for a specific skill trait that they have or something that they can offer that's going to push this forward. Like Tim Senor, he went from a completely black and white world. His mom and dad were like scientists and everything, to being drug into the gray so hard that he had to hit full stop for a second, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people like that now. But as they get along in their own adventure, it's because of a skill set that they possess or something that they can do to move this forward. The 3 degrees of separation thing.
3 degrees of separation. Yeah. I find it interesting, man. Again, I better you than me. I know that much. I'm not I ain't going out there, brother. Not nighttime. You want to go? Let's go investigate the unknown in the middle of the dark, where hearing all the stories. I'm gonna
Dude,
pass on that one.
I tell you what, and this is what really led me to just dig my feet into this and go along for the ride. First trip we took, we're out in the middle of nowhere, Utah, looking up at the Milky Way because where we were at, Utah really doesn't have a whole lot of light pollution. There's not very many big cities, and we were up like 11,000 feet on top of this mountain, looking at the Milky Way. Dave Scott calls. It's 11:11 p.m. and weird stuff had been happening all day that day at 11 minutes past the hour. So 11:11, Dave Scott calls, and I'm sitting in the back of this thing. He goes, "Hey, what direction are you looking?" And I said, "Dude, I'm in the back of the RV." He's like, "Go outside and look north." So I step out the door and I look up and I look north, and I've got my psionics on, right? And I'm looking up, and there were what I thought were binary pairs of stars all around us, right?
Yeah.
Well, I do like a 270-degree scan, and then I come back to the original point, and now those binary stars are in a line like that.
That's
And
weird.
the first one kind of got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and went blink and disappeared. And then the second one, and then the third one, and then the fourth one. This is the thing that blows me away about it. Dave Scott was 2,270 miles away from where I was at. Called me up at 11:11. Didn't matter when he would have called me actually for that, but called us up at 11:11 on the day that weird stuff had been happening all day that day.
Yeah.
And directs me to look exactly where to look to pick up 4 fast walkers that are leaving our atmosphere. And we got it all on, actually, we got it on 4 different kinds of cameras. And when that happened, I said, okay, whatever we're doing it right. And we're along for the ride. So I'm just gonna rope in and away we go, man.
I want to be living a nomad life with Teza. Who is that? What am I missing here? What is that, dude? Dogface, who is Teza? What is that?
Well, we all know what a nomad life is.
I know what a nomad life is, but what's Teza? What is that? The creative within us all? Is that like I'm guessing that's I don't know what that is. I don't know. Maybe it's something I should know about. Thank you for the super chat, man. Dogface is literally dethroning Donnie Cho on these super chats. Timoth, man, good vibes tonight, my brother. It's always a good vibe. That's how I feel. I feel vibes are good vibes.
Oh, Nicole's in the chat too. Hi, Nicole.
Nicole, I would love to get Mike. I would love to get Joe Merja at some point in a conversation here because I got some questions. I've been following him on Twitter for some time, and when I saw him and Nicole team up, I couldn't believe it because I thought they have completely different and in my mind conflicting views, which would be, by the way, awesome because that means that people from different sides of their ideology in this field are working together. That's fantastic.
Dude, Nicole, I know it might sound counterproductive, but we've actually invited Mick West. We sent him an invite. If you want to come on an adventure,
I can't deal with that.
See how it's done. I mean, why not take the biggest skeptic in the world out with you, right?
Because I need somebody who's going to be genuine. So first of all, Mike, thank you also for that massive super chat. You guys are being awesome with these super chats. I got to be honest with you, man, and I don't want to put you in a bad spot. So I don't want to rag on Mick West, especially on Dave's show, because Dave is open to all people. I am glad that Dave allows me to be my own person, separate from himself, and still be here, guys. Just so you know, me and Dave don't agree, and Dave hasn't kicked me out of the show. He allows me to disagree.
Oh,
But
bro,
Mick West,
trust
yeah,
me. I,
yeah,
look, me and you are on the same page when it comes to Mick West, but what we're
yeah,
trying to do is just make it open and available for all
yeah.
sides.
I,
We have
yeah, I
found
would.
out that what causes a successful adventure for us is to have true experiencers with us. Real real
Mhm.
people who've had real
So,
experiences.
so you're telling me Mick West is gonna is like doing this would do?
Oh
You mean
no.
maybe he would? You'd just be open to it. You'd be open to it.
I don't know. If he wanted,
Yeah.
hey man, if he stuck his head in the tit, we'd invite him on in and give him a cup of coffee.
I think that would be great. I think imagine if something happened that he could look at the data and make up his own mind. Right.
Exactly.
I think that would
That
be.
that
I think that's
that
a
was
good thing.
my point, bro. That was the
Yeah,
point. He's like,
that is a
look,
good point.
skeptics, non-skeptics, true believers, and not true believers. The one guy that I'm going out with, my partner in this, um, was shown. Tim was shown this. I mean, without question. Look up the Bainbridge Island Tic Tac one day,
Hold
and
on.
you'll know all about Tim's experience because he
Oh
got some
yeah,
of the most incredible
yeah,
footage I've ever seen with an iPhone. But that's his gig, dude. He's worked. I mean, the first film the guy did was a long, long time ago with the movie star that everybody knows, and he was a camera guy on that, and he's been involved with that kind of stuff for years and years and years and years,
mm,
right? Um, but he keeps his skepticism
right.
to a point. I mean, to the point to where if you start to discuss consciousness with Tim, he just shuts you off. He's like, nope, I'm going to stay neutral. Got to stay neutral. And it's kind of like what Lou Elizondo did, where he's like, I'm
Yeah,
not going to, yeah, I've had whatever happened, but I'm not going to tell you
yeah,
about it because then
yeah.
you might think,
Well, I mean, Sean Cahill's gone. I really like Sean Cahill. I personally I feel like Sean is somebody I could hang out with and have a real man-to-man conversation about, have a philosophical,
oh, I'd love to
pontification,
pick
if
his
you will.
brain, man.
I would,
I'd love to.
I just want to hang out with the dude. Like, honestly, I just want to hang out with him. But I've watched him lately, and he's been really open to the paranormal or supernatural or whatever you want to call it, the spiritual side of things. He did a talk recently where he talked about bending spoons and doing certain psychic-like techniques.
Dude,
And
I grew up watching
yeah,
Uri Geller do that for
yeah.
forever.
Oh,
You
Uri
know?
Geller, guys! Did you see Uri Geller's post on Twitter?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, I don't even. Let me just. I gotta pull. I think we may have. I may have covered it on the After Hours show, but let me just see. Let me just see if I have, because I think you should see this, man. Yuri.
And by the way, Nicole, you and Grant and anybody else if you ever want to come along on an adventure, just press go. You're
Yeah.
invited.
By the way, Nicole, that's awesome. Nicole said that her and Joe don't agree on a lot of things, but they've been friends for a long time. Even so, that's
Yep.
fantastic. So that's good. That is good to hear. Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. I was like, man, if that's great. I mean, that's really great, because that means, again, that people can work together even if they do not agree. But let me pull this up. I want you to check this out. Listen to this claim that he makes. This is Uri Geller. Okay, you guys, this is not a nobody. This isn't just like a random psychic or anything. This is Uri Geller. Check it out.
Of mine. He this
Sorry,
is
hold
the
on one
first
second.
day.
I keep forgetting. Hold on one second.
Hi, my dear friend. So this is Captain Edgar Mitchell, who was a very close friend of mine. He this is the first day I met him, and he
Yeah.
wants me to meet Dr. Werner von Braun, who told Mitchell that he wants to meet me. This is in Werner von Braun's office in a secret NASA base. He's showing me a tiny piece of metal that comes from a UFO. Then he takes me into his personal office, shows me a bigger piece of a crashed UFO. Then he leads me to his limousine. That's his driver. And we drive towards a concrete building. He takes me down 3 flights. He wants me to put on a warm Antarctica coat. He does the same with a NASA logo. And then we walk into a refrigerator room. I want you to look at this very carefully, very carefully. Some people say, it's not real, it's a fake. I believe that it's absolutely real. I've seen them with my own eyes. That's as much as I can tell you. That's what I've seen in the refrigerator room. Some are bodies, maybe some are alive.
Dude,
Unity.
refrigerator room. You haven't seen
Yeah.
that video that's going on around YouTube right now?
Which one?
This girl's freaking out in the airplane, and she's standing there and she's going, "He's not real." And
I can't do anything with that. I know that. Yeah, I've seen that one. I can't do anything with that.
Yeah, this dude's filming him, right? And the guy doesn't blink this way. His eye goes blink.
I don't know. I've seen the video. The guy that was in question, he posted a tweet on on Twitter. He was essentially being like, "Come on, like really? He's just a dude. He's just a dude." Now that doesn't mean there wasn't something to it.
Yeah, but
like,
a guy from sitting on the other side of the aisle with his camera on the guy, and he's got a hoodie on, and he looks up, and when he looks up, his eye goes blink. His left eye goes
I don't know.
blink.
I'm not sold, man.
No.
I'm going against the great. You know what's funny? What do you think about the Las Vegas situation? You think that was a hoax?
You mean the
kid that
backyard thing?
What do you think about that?
You know what? I've never been one to doubt a person. That's been my problem my whole life. Is I just I meet you and I trust you. I have no reason to believe that those people would make something like that up. I mean, at this stage in the game, you would think that you make a claim like that, and the world's going to beat a path to your door.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So if you're not doing it for money, which they didn't make anything off of it, as far as I know.
They made not only that, they got harassed by people who said they were telling that it was fake, and they ended up asking for people to leave them alone. They were like, "I'm done," and I didn't want to talk about it anymore.
I don't have any problem thinking that if they're flying around, they're landing. If they're landing, they're opening the door and getting out.
It reminds me of Jacques Vallée, though. That actually reminds me of Jacques Vallée's books, like Dimensions and Messengers of Deception. I think that was Jacques Vallée's book. There was another book. There was another book. Oh my gosh, A Passport to Magonia. The idea that these things sometimes they appear, they do these weird, like they make these weird encounters, like at random ones. Like the idea that some alien crashed in somebody's backyard and like got into a forklift and tried to. That sounds ridiculous, but it's almost as if that was the purpose. The purpose was to create this ridiculous event to be spread around for the purpose of sowing doubt into the public mind, but by them, not even by them. Guys, they have been trying to remain secret for thousands of years. Obviously, they popped up here and there.
You're coming out. You're coming out, and you're entering our realm here, right? And you finally hit the TV stream, right? And the first thing you see is "I Love Lucy." Oh, Ricky, you got some spinning to do, Lucy. And then the further you go in, But what is consistent across that line is UFOs are for backwoods people who don't know their head from a hole in the ground, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, if you were an alien, our standard of measurement would be a football field. It was as big as a football field, right?
Right. And aircraft carrier, football fields.
Did the absolute top-selling UFO sticker that has ever been made is a picture of a UFO with a beam coming out of it, and it says, "Get in here, loser. We're doing butt stuff."
Oh, dude. Oh, man.
Exactly. Nicole, using our own reality to make us question reality.
Fantastic comment. It's kind of, I do feel like I feel bad for that family, by the way. They have been harassed ever since. People have been showing up at their house, have been taking pictures of their house.
Do you think that's where glitches in the Matrix come from?
I don't see that's another thing, right?
Mandela effect, glitches in the Matrix.
Why is it that people in very interesting positions are mentioning the idea that, like, what is reality, and what about they're entertaining this idea of a simulation theory? Why would I don't even know what to make of that, because I feel like that's too big for us to even be able to figure out. If we're in a simulation, we're never going to figure that out. We're never going to be able to figure. We are in
I
a
brought this up
simulation.
to you the other day. What's going to happen when they take these monstrous games that they have and put AI into them, and then one of the little people on your screen look out and go,
Why am I
"Where?
here?
Why am I here? What the heck is going on? What's going to happen then when?"
Use ChatGPT? I mean, ChatGPT is very primitive compared to what it could be in the future. But today there was and I don't want to, text
Dude,
up.
my kids have got a video game that has. It's a space video game. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's got like 80 quadrillion different planets in it.
No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky.
That's it.
Yeah.
They're going to put
Yeah.
AI in No Man's Sky.
Oh, I can't wait for that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a bit of a I do that on my Twitch and stuff like that too, but sometimes because gaming can be distracting for me. But it's a fun game to play for this.
Love V Love made a point. She said you're going to have all of these fakers out there. And that's the reason why we're doing what we're doing the way that we're doing
Right.
it. Because you
Right.
can't fake what it's going to be live streamed. We're going to be filming everything all the time with timestamps and time markers. I mean, you can see over here that little screen over there. That
Yeah.
is a complete weather station that's hooked up to an atomic clock. And that's on a camera all the time. So if we get anything, all the information for our atmosphere is right there. And it's hooked to an atomic clock.
Right.
So, you know, you take something like we got last time and you send it off and you say, what did we get? And from some people, you get, well, it was this far away from where you were. It was approximately this large. It was going this fast.
Right.
And yes, there was something there. Whether it looks like a tic tac or an orb or whatever, what you don't do is say it looks like a tic tac or an orb or whatever, a triangle. You say, here it is. What is it? Make up your own mind. And that's all we do.
Well, that's actually, I think that's that's an aspect of this, of the field, so to speak, this area that I feel like has less attention. Again, Skinwalker Ranch is the only people that are doing the TV show. They're the only people that are Travis. They're the only people that are doing this stuff. No, I don't know, aside from now, of course, you guys, but do you guys, I mean, I know there's the observatory in Kiev that's allegedly been capturing UAP on their sensors, their multiple sensor equipment that Avi Loeb has essentially
That's actually
denied.
one of the things that the Lucifer telescope in Arizona that's owned by the Catholic Church. It's one of the things that it's devoted to.
Yeah, the funny thing about, do you know what Lucifer, does anybody know what Lucifer means? This is what I find really interesting.
It's a really long acronym. I can't remember what it is, but that's one of the places that I'm going to stop while I'm out on this trip is down at that telescope. I'm going there.
The name, the folklore, the folklore of Lucifer means light bringer, or dawn bringer. So it's a pretty
well. If you listen to Billy Carson, we might be.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the book that according to him, the book that we've all been paying attention to might not have been written by the people we thought it was written by, but that's one person's opinion.
Yeah, I mean, one person's opinion. I mean, it's also, there's some other opinions that all the books that we've ever, the text of philosophies might be from something else, somewhere else.
I mean, one of the people that I actually contacted early on in this was Richard Lang, and Richard Lang ran the original Stars team, the original MUFON Stars team for Robert Bigelow at Skinwalker Ranch. And I asked him straight out, if you were going to do what you did back then now, what would you do?
And what you're doing.
Yep.
I mean,
Richard's part of our team. He's an advisor on our team. And a lot of the stuff that we've got and that we've modeled after what they did to begin with. We've got a lot better tools than they did back then, but it's still basically the same idea. We're all looking for the same thing. For me, it's not so much proving that there's something that's floating around and, cruising through and take a picture, whatever. It's where are they coming to here?
Well,
Because
according to the government and the military, they're going into our oceans.
well, there's hot spots for a
Right.
reason.
Well, hold
There's
on. But before you finish that, I gotta show, because that's actually what. Let me just pull this up for you guys real quick, please. It'll take me just a second, because this is part of what you're mentioning right now about the hot spots. Let's listen to what Representative Luna had to say during that historic press conference about generals blocking. Check this
Oh
out.
yeah, they went to Eldon Air Force Base, and a 5-star commanding general said, "You're not interviewing pilots."
Let's hear about that encounter.
It was the commanding general of Eglin Air Force Base. And ultimately, even before we got down there, the Pentagon actually tried to cancel the field hearing. And also, it's important to note that these were whistleblowers. These were pilots that had come forward to Representative Gates' office with information saying this needs to be investigated. We have an increase in sightings in this region, and it's a cause for concern for national security reasons. We don't know what it is. So we went down there. We were stonewalled. They would not give us access to testimony from some of the pilots. They were hiding images and information.
We were told there was pictures available, which we still haven't seen.
And ultimately, what ended up happening is we had to actually call House Armed Services. Chairman Rogers got involved. The Pentagon got involved. The Department of the Air Force got involved. We actually got into an argument with the general of that base. And it's important to note that we were there simply to follow up on the whistleblowers that came forward with information. And so if the Department of the Air Force, if the Pentagon thinks that they're above Congress, they have something else coming to them. We told them we were going to do this if they continue to hide information. And ultimately, the American people deserve the facts.
Well, random guy is going to recognize this, I'm sure. The reason that career military people will not speak to these people is because they're 2-year and 4-year people. They get elected in and elected out. You are not going to get a career military man to sit down with an elected official and divulge classified information. I don't care who they are.
Yeah, I think it's more importantly, the more important thing is not about who's requesting the information. The more important thing is what is the information and what are the implications of that information to the American people and the world. So let's say that, for example, a general has classified information about, I don't know, say an asteroid about to hit the Earth in, let's just say, 4 years, okay? Yep. And that information needs to be told to the world. Who cares if it's a 1 year or 2 year or 3 year person asking for that information from Congress or from the Pentagon or from the White House? That information has been deemed of the utmost importance to be told to the world. It needs to be told. No general, nobody should ever have the authority to deny information that is civilization impacting, like a general, for example, regardless of their status or how long they've been in power. I think that's kind of the point or the implication that's the problem here. The problem is that the information needs to come out, period, regardless of how long the person requesting it is.
Okay, then I'm going to pose this question to you then. How much more disclosure is it going to take to be disclosure? What is left to disclose?
Well, there's so much obfuscation. I mean, the question is what is left. That's a good question. What if the obvious answer to that question is that it is all related to UAP, because the concern that whistleblowers are telling people, the Congress, members of Congress, the ICIG, and everyone else, is that we need to tell people now, right now. And we had Ross Coulthart and Bryce Sable earlier that I brought on, that I pulled that clip up, where he said there's some bad news attached to this, and that there's a fire behind their butt. Right.
That goes right back to the fear that I explained to you. Yeah. What scares me about this is the bleak outlook that these experiencers are describing.
Right. Cataclysms, essentially.
Cataclysms. Yes. Whenever, Derek, everybody that's coming forward right now, government, military, they're all concerned about it, or else we wouldn't be hearing about
it. There was a lot of people coming. I mean, David Grush is an intelligence officer, ex-Air Force, of course, but he's an intelligence officer. That's kind of, and by the way, he had the top clearance, one of the highest clearances you could possibly have. He had access to over 1,000 different classified programs, and he oversaw them. So I think that it's important to recognize that these people are saying, like, we need to know, and we need to know like now. Again, I my concern is with yours. The experiencers are telling us that something is coming, whether it be a cataclysm or otherwise. The military is telling us that there's a concern. You just heard Representative Luna saying that there is an increase in certain regions of the world in sightings, and then there's this other clip that I found to be quite interesting, that from 2021, that mentions that there's and I believe I brought this up once before, but I didn't emphasize it because it was well, it's been tied into this, what's happening recently. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to play that real quick. It's just a very short clip here, but essentially it's telling us that there's something to be concerned about.
Does it? Okay. Look at this a couple of different ways, because just a little bit ago we were hearing about pipelines being blown up in Ukraine and Russia and yada yada yada. We all know
Yeah.
that Putin's getting older and he wants to leave his mark on the world, and that what better way to do that than shoot a nuke, right? But on the other hand, they've already, whatever's coming here, according to stories that we've all heard, can shut nukes right off.
That's what I want you guys to kind of, this is all putting it into perspective for me. So check this out, and I want to hear what you have to say about this as well. This is Blumenthal. This is Blumenthal, by the way.
The most important facts for us and the American people to understand are the facts that haven't been said today. And the reason why they haven't been said is that they are largely classified. And the reason that's important is that the American people have no idea, really no idea, about the immensity of the threat in space. And I've made this comment in a classified setting, that I wish the American people could be present in this room, not this room, but the SCIF, because our adversaries know what they are doing. We know what they are doing. They know, we know what they are doing, but the American people have no idea.
I know you know what I'm doing, and you know that I know that you know what I'm doing. That's what
Yeah.
it boils down to, is a military-industrial complex, dude.
Well, I think that this is bizarre to me. I don't even know what to think about this. To be honest, I'm
To
torn.
begin with,
Yeah.
Blumenthal, really? To hear those words come out of that man's mouth is something that I never thought that I would live. Chuck Schumer, too. To hear the words come out of his mouth that came out of his mouth, dude, I would have swore that I would have been back in the back 40 under 6 foot of dirt before that ever happened.
Yeah.
So are they pushing it because of the military-industrial complex?
Well, they're
that
against it.
Eisenhower warned us about?
Yeah, I think the problem is that if they're pushing it, this is what I don't understand about this argument. And again, chat, you can light me up for this if you want to. I'm secure with my conspiracy theories. So what I don't understand is like, oh, it's the shadow government. It's Project Bluebeam. They're trying to trick us into a false invasion. Guys, these people are fighting against the people trying to keep the secrets. Do you really? I mean, it would be stupidly insane to have these people go out and like, hey, I want you to leak the plan, and I want you to do it in a way that makes us look bad, so people hate us in the whole process.
Yeah, dude. But the people who are keeping the secrets are the people that could turn the volume up to 11 and make us think whatever we want to think. There was something that came out in 2010. It was the Rockefeller Report. It's called Operation Lockstep.
I've heard of it.
That was the last time I ever voted when I read that. Operation Lockstep, completely, I mean, down to a T, described the 2020 pandemic. Had Bill Gates involved with it. It came out of Asia. It came from a bat.
Be careful. Yeah, be careful
No,
with
I
that.
mean, dude, it's public information. Anybody can look up Operation
Yeah,
Lockstep,
no, I'm
2009
with
Rockefeller report.
I'm with you on that.
But
By the way, I think it's interesting when you mention that and you're talking about these planned. Essentially, it seems like these things are planned out beforehand.
these
However,
guys are playing the long game, dude. They're playing generational stuff, not next year, the
yeah,
next 2 or 3 generations. The freedoms that we give up today,
mm,
that we complain about, now that they know they can do it, that's going to be standard operating procedure for my grandchildren.
mm. Well, I think my concern is the same as it's been since I first learned about the infighting within our community. Within, I mean, we've got a group of people that have been alleging that there's something to see here, folks. They've been saying that, hey, everybody, thank you, Evan Walters. I appreciate that. They've been saying that, listen, we need to fight against the secrecy. They've risked their jobs, they've risked their safety, they've risked their family safety, they've risked their comfort, they've risked their entire livelihood to tell us, the UFO community, that about what we've always wanted to know. And then most people turn around and attack them and smear them and call them liars and say they're shills and say they're government ops. But then, like a guy who is a known disinformation agent because he says that aliens like ice cream. And
Well,
so I get the impression that Joe Monk, I think you're Joe. I gotta go with Joe Monk on this one. The UFO community is its own worst enemy. Because
bingo.
if we're gonna do this to the people that are trying to fight for our right to know the truth, we don't deserve it. We just don't. We deserve to hear more stories about aliens liking ice cream and see blurry Bigfoot photos because that's what makes us happy. We want to know the truth, we say, but when someone is risking life and limb to give it to us, we attack them. I don't get from Bob Lazar on. We have smeared people who have risked everything. Recently, Jeremy Corbell said he mentioned on the Weaponized podcast, hey, I asked Bob Lazar to testify. He said, why the heck would I do that? Look what they did to me. And I'm paraphrasing. Look what they did to me. Why would I risk it again just so they can tell me that I'm a liar, I'm a shill, I made it all up, and then smear me all over again? By the way, Bob Lazar has government contracts that he's been using his genius to help them build things. If you think that Bob Lazar isn't somebody of note or that he's a liar or a shill or whatever, you're mistaken. There are some things that are sketchy about his story. Doesn't take away from the like his credibility, I should say. But the man is clearly who he says he is. I mean, we got pilots, we got scientists who say, yeah, Bob Lazar is a genius. We have physicists who say, yeah, Bob Lazar is legit. And yet people who don't know the things that he knows, I don't get it. I think that it is sad to see that we see people being drugged, people that are in the forefront of this movement of disclosure being drugged by the people they're fighting for.
Don't get it twisted, Marquise. And you know this as well as I do because you know where I'm going. I'm going to steer clear of this as best I can, but we've been made well aware that we were drawing the wrong kind of attention from the wrong kind of people.
Yeah.
Just doing what
Yeah.
we're doing. Just a bunch of guys out with a whole bunch of fun stuff, having camping trips, but when we started contacting certain people to let them know what we were doing and that we would be more than happy to provide whatever we could, it was made very clear that it was time to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Whitley talks about not just like having to worry about like government, there's like this shadow government or the military industrial complex. Keep in mind, guys, just so you understand something, the White House and the Pentagon and the Department of Defense are not buddies. They're not buddies. Just so you guys understand
You
something.
got the same thing in the UFO community. MUFON doesn't release its records. APRO doesn't release its records.
Yeah, there's
That
no
thing,
yeah.
yeah. Or what's the one that um, what's the new one that started in the UFO community here just recently? They've initially when you ask them, "Are you going to release your stuff?" Nope, it's our records. I know of a man who lives in a very hot state who has basically two. If you can imagine like the big size barns, I mean, just huge, huge barns, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Full of collections of UFO material from some of the best researchers that's ever been. And when they passed on, they left their stuff directly to this man. He's even got the original Project Blue Book stuff, all the way down to the handwritten notes. And he's been given a green light to donate that stuff to a university he's going to donate it to after they get it all categorized. It's going to go into and to a university for anybody to have access to. And that was just very recently that happened. It's something he pushed for years. And now that all this stuff's happening, Uncle Sam said, sure, turn it loose.
Yeah, I mean, guys, chat, listen, chat, I love you guys. I really do. Listen, I gotta tell you, the chat's so funny. You know what? One of my favorite things to do, and I know this is gonna sound crazy. I don't know what you think about this, Terry. Most of my viewers disagree with me, and we have the best time. Evan Walters, yeah. Go ahead.
When we go out and have our little adventures with the eclectic people that we go out with, because UFO people are eclectic people.
Yeah.
We have some really staunch discussions. Not arguments, but that's always been a good part about it. That's why I've always liked the UFO community, because back when I was little, it was okay to talk about, religion and politics at the dinner table. That used to be a discussion that you would have. Can't do that anymore, but we can still have those kind of discussions in the UFO community. It's not religion or politics, but it's woo. And we can disagree with each other. I mean, it just
I wish we
helps
could do
prove
that.
the point.
I really wish we could still do that, man. Terry, like one of the most, I've learned, and this for a fact, how to navigate through conversations and be more careful about what I say, because things can be very triggering for people. To use the new term for the kids nowadays, people get triggered. What is it? SJW term. People get triggered by like certain words or certain topics. And I wish
social norms go out the window, civilization crumbles. Look at any major civilization. When the social norms went out the window, Rome fell right into the garbage gutter.
Yeah, I think James Weston said, now talking, is a fast way to. It's not just politics; it's religion. Anything that's disagreement. I mean, one day I mentioned I forget what I said. I don't even remember what I said. I think I just said the word, just a word. I didn't mention anything about it specifically. I said a word in the context of a conversation, and it set someone off. And I was like, "What happened?" Like, I didn't even know what happened, because I didn't think, I didn't say I believe anything. I didn't say that you should believe anything. I didn't say anything about I just mentioned the word. That's the kind of world we live in today, where literally
Same thing happened to me. Same thing happened to me less than a week ago. We were talking about games that we played as kids, and I happened to mention one that starts with SMEAR. But I just, we're talking, and I just, and oop, that was the wrong thing to say. Yeah. Even stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't get it.
That's that at the time I thought was quite innocent. But apparently for some people that's not.
I don't think Evan, it was not you, it was somebody else. But either way, yeah, it's I think that I think this, man. You know, guys, I want you to hear me out here. Chat. Let's hear me out, okay? We what do we do here? And specifically the commentators, the people that are on the shows every day, the people that are talking about these topics. Terry that comes on here and has the, I think, bravery to have the conversation about what he's working on. We take a risk just by having the conversation to our mental health. I mean, honestly, like I am a very resilient guy, and I think it's all funny, to be honest. But that not a lot of people have that mindset where they can engage in somebody telling them. I've had people tell me, "Listen, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Do your research. You're uninformed. You're just ignorant. You don't have all the data. You're using conjecture. All these different things." And I think it's funny. First of all, I'm up here and they're not. Secondly, you know, like you can start your own YouTube channel, guys. If you not you guys, but these people start their own YouTube channel, I tell them. And then on top of that, it's like my purpose is to get this information out, to have the conversation, to inspire people to think about these things. And guys, we're very close to the end of the show, so I want to get these ideas out. But that's my goal, is to get people thinking about this in a logical, rational, non-religious way. Like I don't want people to. This is not a religion, ladies and gentlemen. This is not
just
this is just
empirical,
reality.
just
Yeah,
empirical evidence. Just
yes.
straight across the board. Here it is. What are you going to do with it?
That's what I hope for with the community. But I do feel like there is a religiosity to ufology, and I'm warning us all, because we are in this together. We are in this together. If we go down the road of my perspective is the only perspective and your perspective is wrong, we will fail, and we deserve it. If we do this, we will fail and we deserve it. And so it is important for us. Guys, listen, I just told you that, chat, you all disagree. My friends disagree. Randomly, RG, you know, Nicole, they don't agree with everything I say, and we have fun with it. That's how you have a conversation.
Yep.
And disagree. That's how you do it. Nicole tells me, what did she? I forget what she said earlier, but it was in response to what I said about these. You know, oh, it's out of context. Jeremy Corbell is this and that. Like Jeremy Corbell is my boy. You know, like we can. That's how you have a conversation in disagreement. You don't take it so sensitively. It's just we love each other. I do love you guys. I feel love for everybody. That's why we do this, because we care about people. We care about the world. We care about what we're doing. And so I think it's important for us to not eat ourselves alive. Don't do it, people. Allow people to disagree with you. I mean, allow people to believe that aliens are not your space brothers, and allow people to believe that they are. Allow that. Let it happen, because that's the only way you're going to come to a real. I think there's something in between. There's good, and the universe is full of yin and yang, ladies and gentlemen. There are no black and white.
Well, I've got it right up there, Marquise. ABC, always be coachable, man.
That's random guys being ridiculous. I can tell you right now, I think that that's actually one of my favorite ones. The beginner's mind, right? The beginner's mind, and so the idea that you empty your cup and so it can be filled again. I've had people tell me this is important to understand, that I'm a fear monger, which is the craziest thing in the world, because all I do is have fun with this. But I think I know why, because I present the alternative to the religiosity of this, that not all of our space brothers are friendly. I don't think that. I don't think they are, because I
don't
believe
think that either.
Yeah, I mean, human beings are not all friendly, but do we deserve to live? Do we deserve a chance to grow as a civilization? I've heard people in the chat tell me that we're the problem. Guys, we're not the only problem here.
But
I don't.
It was also, what was was it War of the Worlds? It was the one with Klaatu. They made a very good point in that movie with where they said humanity only matures when they're right on the brink.
That's the precipice of extinction. You're talking about the Keanu Reeves said that in The Day the Earth Stood Still. when he was talking
Yeah,
to that
that's it.
scientist.
They are
Yeah,
still. Yeah.
yeah, he was talking to that scientist, and he said, "But it's on the precipice that humanity makes that change. It's for some reason we are just the race that has to face extinction, a cataclysm before we're like, okay, now let's do something."
Yep.
And that's I just feel like give us a chance. Like
We even do that in our day-to-day lives, dude.
yeah, man, give us a chance, man. Give us a chance. Give
We
us a
all
chance.
live lives of quiet desperation, going from one moment to the next, never knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. We're short sighted. We don't
And
know everything. We're very limited in scope, and our ability to conceptualize reality, it's built into us to not be able to do that.
see, everybody's a Marine and they just don't know it, because the Marines are all taught to adapt, improvise, and overcome. And that's what we all do every day.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you, Evan Walters. He calls me a noob. He said,
you know what?
That's what
Marquise might not know the history of all this stuff, but he's far from a noob. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I got a lot to learn. I'll tell you that. There's a lot that I have to learn. And by the way, producing content takes away from learning about the history, because you got to stay up to date on the new stuff. You guys have spent years and years and years before me researching this topic, so you're already there. That's why I depend on the chat. I rely on the chat for some of this stuff back in the day.
Well,
I
one
have
of these
to stay
days,
up to date.
One of these days, when I can drag Marquise away from his beautiful family, I'm going to send him a plane ticket and lock him in my library for like a week.
That would be freaking, dude. I'm a speed reader, and let me tell you something. I'll read 10 books at a time.
Evelyn would, buddy.
Yeah, I'm down for it, brother. I'm down for it. If I ever can, I'll talk to you about that sometime, by the way. So
I took the old speed reading course. I'm still a speed reader, Marquise. That's how I got through college.
you have to. When you're consuming mass amounts of information, you gotta speed read. And again, it's one of those skills that you have to really practice at. But when you do it, you're able to take in a lot more information. I mean, a lot. But the only caveat is that for myself, it's better when you're consuming big amounts of information than small.
Yep.
Doing small information you're not going to be able to speed read a 2 paragraph, like a couple of sentences. You got to read that stuff.
Funny enough, they say that people who are very accomplished speed readers probably have ADD.
I do have AD. I have ADHD.
So do I. ADHD, yeah.
It's
because
bad.
we can hyper focus on something really well,
But I need to be stimulated by multiple different, sources. So for me, like I will, my greatest learning experiences are when I'm doing something else while I'm learning. I need a lot of stimulation to challenge for some reason to actually help me zero in and focus on something. It's why I chose Twitch to be my main platform whenever I'm doing my own thing, because if I do get a chance to game, when I have a conversation, when I'm debating people, which I do often on my Twitch, I am more focused when I'm doing something else, because I'm again, it's your brain's working on hyperdrive, guys. It's really, how do you slow that down? Give your brain something to focus on so that you can focus on something. It sounds insane, but that's how we work. That's just how we work.
That's it in a cup, really.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Terry, you're getting some love here.
Thank you, D. Thank you, Dogface. I appreciate that, bro. I really thank you very much. I stay in the rear. I do really well staying in the rear with the gear, man. That's my place.
Yeah, everybody has the funny thing is, like, the funny thing about working in a team, especially with SOR, is that like you think people can do these things on their own. Let me tell you something.
Our monthly meetings are a hoot, aren't they, buddy?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The last meeting I had there was all kinds of stuff going on. There's kids. It's like, guys, there's a lot to this what we do here. Again, aside from just the shows.
Now, imagine doing that with a bunch of OG UFO research people.
Yeah.
That come from all different parts of the country. Planning this trip it's literally taken me 3 months. Taken me and Tim 3 months.
Jeez.
Now, you know what? No, that's baloney. We actually started planning this in November last year.
Wow.
Yeah. And to pull the thing about it is what we do, we self-finance because we don't want anybody to say that we've got we've got a puppeteer. So all of this stuff and all the people that we work with, we're all self-financed. We don't have an angel investor or something like that.
I'm not putting that up there, random guy. I'm not putting that up there, but random guy's comment is just stupid.
Oh my Lord. Well, RG, maybe you ought to take Cardi B to a congressional meeting with you then.
Oh my
That
God.
was good. I'm going to remember that, man. I'm actually probably going to put that on a t-shirt.
You didn't even see earlier. He said that me and Carmen look like Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart. Credit goes to Justin because Justin said it actually. But like random guy said it again in caps, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And we both had a blast on that. That was freaking fantastic. That was fantastic. That was so funny, man. What
I want to know is who's going to do the cooking.
I mean, probably her, unless you guys want to add some of that special, happy stuff in there. Now mix a little bit of the, but yeah. So
spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, Marquise.
It sure does. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of tonight's show. So, any last words for everybody here, Terry, before we head out?
Thank you for having me, guys, and I do make you this promise: if we find something when we go out this time, you're going to be the second to know because we're going to be the first.
All right, brother. And with that, my friends, I want to give a shout out to all the super chatters and all the people in the chat. By the way, every single one of you, thank you for being here, and thank you for allowing me to have noob ideas, ones that you don't agree with, and still welcoming me to the show.
And thanks, you guys. I mean, I know you guys were expecting the UFO report with little Timmy Senor, and we went way off base tonight, but I've loved it. Thanks for having me, Marquise. I appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here, Terry. Thank you.
And thanks, guys, in the chat. I love you all, and you know I do.
They love you too, brother. You crushed it. All right, guys. So we got this. So I want to give a shout out to all of the super chatters. We got Dogface, the Debster, new name for Deb. Dogface again. Dogface. My gosh, Dogface.
Praise the cash, man.
Right?
Praise the
My
cash.
goodness, this dude's killing it. We got Greg O'Brien. Thank you, Greg. Neil Warden. Thank you, Neil. Don't forget to hit me up. Cat Chaser.
No, wait, you got to say scowling Greg O'Brien. It's scowling
Greg O'Brien.
Yes.
Thank you so much, scowling Greg O'Brien. Cat Chaser. Dogface again. My gosh. Timoth Man with the fat super chat. Mike Arrington with the fat super chat. And Deb again, the Debster. And then, of course, finishing off with Dogface, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Now, Terry, before you leave, before we head out, I wanted to say I really do appreciate you being here for the last hour and a half. It is a lot to do the last hour, especially the hour and a half alone. It's hard. I mean, again, we do it, but it is difficult. So thank you so much for that. And by the way,
thanks for having me, man.
It was a pleasure. Chat, special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. Thanks to everyone participating in the chat, YouTube, Facebook, the Spaced Out Travelers Club, on our website, and on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio Ventures and Media Ventures Ltd. Thanks for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends, you know what we do. There we go. We own the night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.